New team, new channel, same old bullshit. Welcome to our IndyCar season preview on Motorsport 101. Sometimes the best intros are the simplest. I'm Dre Harrison. Welcome to 2025 season previews, and we are back on the Motorsport 101 YouTube channel, podcast directory, RSS feed, whatever you want to friggin' call it. We are back after a couple of weeks away. It's a pleasure to be back in your ears and eyes again. Forgive us for the delay. Obviously, there's not been an awful lot to talk about until the last couple of days here. But welcome to what we call here season preview season. It is back with a vengeance as our three big series that we cover here on M101. Well, we're getting close to crunch time. Just, I think I want to say 10 days from now. I'll just really, before we talk about the big boy seasons for not only IndyCar, but also MotoGP. They both start on March the 2nd, race day-wise. Formula One's a little bit later, March 16th. So that F1 season preview will be out a little bit later on in March, a little bit closer to their season start. A bit disjointed, but hey, it's not like the issues and conflicts of global motorsport calendars will come up in this podcast. No, not at all. So joining us over the next couple of hours or so is our usual suspects. First of all, Mr. RJ O'Connell. How's it going, RJ?
Good. Welcome back to another IndyCar season preview here on M101, which has been listened to in over 195 countries. Here are some of them: the UK, the United States, Scotland, Ireland, the UK again, and rent-free in the heads of 27 other drivers.
Well, very good. I see what you did there. Very good. Apparently, all of them, Palou Award is the most popular person in said country. We'll talk about that a little bit later on in the show. Also joining us, Mr. Cameron Buckley. Hello, Cameron. Good to see you.
Good to be here. While I continue mildly crashing out thanks to the events of the last 72 hours, we're back on our hallowed grounds. It's season preview season.
Yes, it's like Kratos finding the blades of Olympus all over again. We are back to our comfort food.
Yeah, any guy in ancient Greece, when his wife gets inexplicably pregnant, he just starts screaming, "Zeus!"
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, it happens all the time over there. But as you may have alluded to by now, especially if you're watching this live as it's being recorded, more on the benefits of that in a moment, there's four of us here, and it's a special guest, and it's not Ryan Eric King. It's Ryan Eric King's cousin. No, I'm joking. It's actually...
we have opened the gates of hell, summoned the most evil force we could find. Christopher DeHardy has joined us on this podcast.
Yes, Mr. Front Stretch himself, the man who's begged and pleaded to come back on this show, and we finally had a slot open for him. He booked his appointment 6 months in advance for this occasion. As mentioned, a writer for frontstretch.com, and best friend of Colton Herta in the IndyCar paddock, Christopher DeHardy, ladies and gentlemen. How's it going?
No, never mind. No. For those of you who can't see my camera, I just looked behind me just to make sure no one was sneaking up behind me.
It's got an open door.
Yeah. But it's okay. I just went on a flight and rental car a couple of days ago for St. Petersburg. I'm looking forward to getting out of Indianapolis for a few days. It is 19 degrees up here. It's frigid. It sucks. Hell, a few days ago it was 5 degrees, and I'm like, okay, this is too much. Like I like the cold, I do, but there comes a time where it's just like, no, I'm done with this. I'm done with this.
Can we spring already, please?
I would love that. I would really love that.
I just had to convert that over. That's -7 in English Celsius. Good God almighty.
It gets better. It gets better. Dre, a few weeks ago in early January, it was actually -5 degrees Fahrenheit in Indianapolis. And I actually cheered when it got to 0.
So... how fun was it when your wife had to break you out of an ice cube via a chisel?
Thankfully, I had enough layers to where it was only mildly chilly outside, but still, it was not comfortable. I was walking around like those green army men in Toy Story, just
Very good, very good. He was able to throw him out there. But yes, we've brought in Krista Hardy for our IndyCar season preview. He's currently doing some case study work. He's actually listening to 2 pods at the same time, ours as well as another one. You'll see why shortly. You're just gonna have to trust me on this one. But then for the next 15 minutes, so we're going to catch up a little bit on some of the news. First and foremost, we will talk about this past weekend's Daytona 500.
Oh, dear God.
Which took place.
William Byron won for the second year in a row.
Wait. Who won the 500?
William Byron.
Who?
Byron. President.
Can I just applaud the sim racers of the world? Because that last lap avoidance up against the wall was pure iRacing B fixed.
Hey, did you know that William Byron learned to drive on a computer? It's never mentioned.
No, it never comes up. Yeah, like what better platform on an oval to learn how to avoid a huge multi-car wreck than the nature of iRacing on an oval?
Yeah, you can crash all day, fly through the grandstands, and then just join the next lobby, re-rack them, and start again 5 minutes later. I mean, you're not Jordan Taylor and you don't crash so hard in the game, you crash in real life. Yeah,
that sim rig getting flipped over it still lives rent free in my head personally, alongside the heads of all the other IndyCar roster. But yes, that was a wild one. I mean, look, if there's one, I'm not the biggest NASCAR guy in the world, and I'll be the first person to admit this, but it is getting a little bit ridiculous when you watch the Daytona 500 year on year. And this one already had a 4-hour rain delay in it due to a storm and all sorts
of God, I would say, punishment due to the pre-race ceremony.
Yeah, Donald Trump was in the house for a drive over way around, and RJ O'Connor is currently choking furiously on something. It might be phallic. I'm just
giving you an abridged recap of what all that pre-race hullabaloo was all about. I really wish Bubba Wallace would have won that race so he could rub it in his face with him in the building, but he left during the rain delay because that's what he always does, and that's all I'll say about that. Me personally about this race, I feel like there's not a lot of rewatch value to it.
No,
it's fun in the moment, but you watch it back and it's just like, oh yeah, this is kind of a wreck. And look, I don't know what we do. I don't know if we need to just go back in time 20 years and coach drivers not to drive with as much gusto and reckless abandon as they do now. I don't need if we just need to fundamentally rethink the way we build stock cars or both.
What I will go to is there was a lot of talk on a lot of aspects of this race. The fuel saving that we all feared, the stage racing, partnerships between manufacturers, partnerships within those manufacturers, and none of it matters because when everyone starts racing with 3 laps to go like it's Martinsville, only it's at 180 miles per hour, it doesn't really matter. It's all so stupid.
Yeah, again, I'm a relatively new NASCAR viewer, and it's actually, frustrating. And I'm not the only writer that's not normally a NASCAR writer that's talked about it. Elizabeth Blackstock did a very good piece for this over at Planet F1 talking about this, or the Planet sites in general, because they've expanded in recent times. I think she called it the enshittification of NASCAR, because it's like you're waiting for the
everything in NASCAR in the last 20 years.
It's like you're watching and waiting for the big one to inevitably happen, and that's not how I want to watch motorsport, where you're waiting for the huge accident to inevitably land. And on cue, it did with 7 laps to go in this one, and
we basically had 3 in relatively quick successions, because we had one with that many laps to go, one with 4 laps to go, and then one actually coming around the final lap.
Yeah, exactly. And
we wanted the field 3 times.
And one of them involved Ryan Preece getting punched in the front pocket of his car and his car completely flipping over. And, something that got to me after that race was obviously reading the interviews and the media coverage and all of that was two things that got me. Number one was Ryan Preece saying, in the moment, all I could think about was my daughter, which breaks your heart to even have to consider that while driving a 200 mile an hour stock car. But on top of that, the thought that I don't want to be the example. And that's, of course, the second huge rolling car wreck that Ryan Preece has had in the last 12 months. It was a huge incident. I mean, again, like the moment the floor got loose and airborne, it flipped over. It was like watching Robot Wars. The whole thing just went over incredibly
like watching
quickly.
Simone Biles do like a floor routine with how many flips it was doing so tight to the floor.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not ideal on them. So it's not an easy watch at all. And it's something that I can't particularly get behind as a fan. I mean, congrats to William Byron. He's a fantastic NASCAR driver, and back-to-back Daytonas is incredible. It's just not necessarily easy, comfortable viewing in the process, and I'm not sure what NASCAR is going to do if they do anything about this.
It's not going to be an easy fix because they got another race just like it in Atlanta next week.
Yeah, we're back rolling with NASCAR, and, again, I can only hope this doesn't continue, but it almost inevitably will. I mean, Kira sums it up in our chat quite nicely where they say, Denny Hamlin's podcast had a really good explainer on it from him. Hearing him say it's making him consider stopping was jarring, considering he's never said that before.
And Denny Hamlin didn't say he was considering stopping when him and his team were literally taking NASCAR to court.
Yeah. If the court doesn't get you, maybe flipping over at 190 miles an hour might. Which is a weird sentence I've had to go and say without any joke or irony whatsoever, but here we are, folks.
And I'll also say as well, one more note, congratulations to two-year IndyCar veteran Jimmy Johnson on a fantastic third-place finish. Still got it.
Did you forget? It's like the movie short. Did you forget to draw the other two on your script when you talked about how long a veteran he's been? Goodness me!
Still got it, man.
I've still got something. Also, gentlemen, did you get around to see an F175 live and the big spectacle of Formula One launching its 75th anniversary season?
No, because I got everything I wanted to see in picture form.
Yeah, pretty much the same. I was also at work, so.
Oh, thanks, guys. That dropped me in it. I'm joking, but
look. All I'm going to say is that RB, that Racing Bulls, is going to look fantastic getting 8th in the constructors.
It's a beautiful thing. We got the white Red Bull we've always wanted. It's just coming from the B team, and with Isaac Hadja, at least it will come with inevitable bad language. That
was an inevitability with Yuki Tsunoda present.
Oh yeah, like there was already a backstage clip doing the rounds of Tsunoda accidentally walking into the Red Bull locker room and saying shit on the way out. Classic Yuki Tsunoda. It doesn't mean anything symbolic, I promise. Yeah, I did actually watch this, and yeah, I'll give F1 this. Like, they talked about having 25 Super Bowls a year, and I'll tell you for free, this certainly had the feel of one. This was a big deal. As someone that's seen how the Autosport Awards comes about, and which is a much smaller affair with 1/20th of the population of people coming in and working on it. I can't imagine how they put all of that together. And I have inside details that said apparently a lot of this was extremely last minute in how they put it together, and they pulled it off. It was a beautiful spectacle, full arse runway and grid, 20,000 in place at the O2. F1 TV team blitzed and glamoured. Jack Whitehall did an incredible job as MC on this occasion. No, he's a bit of a room splitter as a comedian, not in an edgy sense, but more in a is he actually as the funniest man in his own family kind of sense of Jack Whitehall. But he did a very good job taking the piss out of Formula One, and trust me, as a sport that needs to be taken down a peg, I'm all for that, quite frankly. The man opened up with a huge banger about has George Russell and Max Verstappen kissed and made up yet, which kind of says it all, really, about the state of the field. And saying to Toto Wolff, has he changed his eyes to wets, or as a result of Lewis Hamilton being on the Ferrari table? yes, you've had a 10-year relationship and your partner's run off of the Italian stallion. It was very solid mockery of the sport. Christian Horner got the shit booed out of him, which, well, can't say that wasn't to be expected. Like, all the teams got...
FIA got the shit booed out. Bernie Ecclestone got a name drop, and that was just like, boo!
We are not here for him anymore, which, again, is alarming with the newer sets of fans and how out of touch a lot of the old crowd can be. Each team got 7 whole minutes to themselves as a segment to do whatever they wanted to reveal their cars, and they were a mixed bag of quality. I mean, Ferrari spent 4 minutes on a VT that was probably 2 minutes too long because it was Enzo Ferrari's birthday yesterday, so they were going to celebrate him. We had Red Bull celebrate car culture with a very elaborate shoot of them driving down to the track. Morley's was featured, so if you're into your fried chicken like I am, Morley's is an institution in South London, so a salute to them. That was pretty cool. I actually do know how much that film cost to make, and my eyeballs rolled into the back of my skull that was the amount they were prepared to spend on it. If you're a Patreon backer, I'll let you know what that number is. But it was a
pricey.
lot. Yeah, 6 figures is what I will say, and it doesn't start with a 1. So that was wild. A lot of the team bosses let their drivers do the talking. Guys, people were very critical of the whole, why then the drivers talk more? Because they're boring as shit. Trust me, teams made the right decision limiting the amount of interviews, because that just sucked the air out of the room like a vacuum. Like, what I will say overall is, give it a watch. It's worth your time. I do genuinely say this. It is a little long at 2 hours. There's a great 15-minute highlight reel edit that F1's YouTube channel just put up. Give it a watch. And if it ain't for you, it ain't for you. That's fine. But as an overall way to kick off a season, pretty good fun. And what I will say is 1.1 million people was the peak YouTube viewership of this show. It obliterated the YouTube live event record, which I think was 290,000 going into this. That is a crazy number.
That's insane. And you know what's in contrast to just like hearing articles about how ESPN is not going to renew like its F1 contract when it runs out at the end of this year because they're not getting the viewership that they expected, and it's about that same figure.
Yeah. There's an audience here. And look, I had to deal with Autosport's comment section. A lot of the older crowd did not appreciate this. To which I say, 1, get with the times. 2, the younger crowd were all over this on YouTube. Like, I've said this 100 times, and social media stats back this up. You want to appeal to young people? Put it on fucking YouTube, okay? They will drive there in their droves.
Yeah.
And no matter how you feel about it, 1.1 million viewers live is crazy. 7.5 million watched at least some of this show on YouTube over a 2-hour live event. That is bonkers numbers.
Yeah.
There's clearly something here. Whether it's enough to work out a second or a third time, if they make this a yearly staple, I don't know. The teams are not keen on this. It takes away some of their news cycle for their own launches. So there's a debate as to whether this can coexist in the F1 preseason schedule. But if it was just a one-off, it was a good one-off. And I think that deserves some acknowledgement.
Yeah.
Right. I'll do the places you can find us at the end of the show because we're already at about 20 minutes long and we want to get cracking on this. So right after this, without further ado, we'll do our IndyCar 2025 preseason preview.
You know why they call it IndyCar?
Why do they call it IndyCar, RJ?
It's because they sit in the car. And when they're done racing, they get out the car. Please clap.
Great. The Krista Hardy dad jokes are infecting all of us.
Already. We've barely even started.
There's one thing that Nashville has over Dallas in the standings this week.
Yeah, fair enough. As you know, this is our IndyCar preseason show, and we'll do it how we normally do it. I mean, IndyCar doesn't really have a team's championship standing per se, so we've gone in rough power rankings order as to where we think the teams are right now, and we'll crack into those piece by piece over the next 90 minutes or so. But we've got to get we'll talk a little bit about the schedule first and some general business changes, which we'll get to. I've been talking a bit much for the last 5 minutes. So, RJ, do you want to handle the calendar, the 2025 schedule? There is some changes.
Yes.
Here.
Yep. Starting with the Firestone Grand Prix St. Petersburg. That's up first. It's on March 2nd on the streets of St. Petersburg. That's not the big change. We do have a new championship round. It will look very familiar, and you'll know what it is, and you're going to think, man, why? Yes, right, because we're going back to Coachella Valley in California at the exclusive Thermal Club for the first points-paying Thermal Club IndyCar Grand Prix on March 23rd. But don't you worry, because we're going to take a trip further down in the Southern California region to the streets of Long Beach, California, where finally we get some real culture for the Acura Grand Prix of Long Beach on April 13th. And then to close out this portion of the calendar, we go to Barber Motorsports Park in Birmingham, Alabama for the Children's of Alabama Indy Grand Prix. Then the month of May starts. On Saturday, May 10th, it's the Indianapolis Grand Prix, the Sancio Grand Prix at the road course. Then we have a week of time trials and practice. And then it's the 109th Indy 500 on May 25th at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. I didn't need to tell you that. Then we get to the rest of the schedule, starting with the Chevrolet Detroit Grand Prix on the streets of Detroit, Michigan at the GM Renaissance Center on June 1st. We take a 2-week break. Then we go to the Bommarito Automotive Group 500 at Worldwide Technology Raceway, formerly Gateway Motorsports Park. Hey, did you know this race is why I can't see Alex Palou cook in a prototype at Le Mans this year?
Boo.
Absolutely disgusting. Although the other reason is also because Honda won't bring the damn car over to WEC.
Well, there's that too. Oh, but McDonald's isn't supposed to promote a KFC. I would like to see this. Please.
Why can't we collaborate?
June 22nd, the Etzbell Grand Prix at Road America, beautiful Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. I love the place. Then on July 6th, 2 days after Independence Day, it's the Honda Indy 200 at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. And a week later, we go to Iowa Speedway for our only doubleheader round. The two races at Iowa Speedway on Saturday, July 12th and Sunday, July 13th. They were 250 laps. They're now 275. We'll get to that more in a bit. Then it's the Ontario Honda e-dealers Indy Toronto at the Toronto Lakeshore Exhibition Place Circuit on July 20th. And the week after that, damn, this is a busy July. The Firestone Grand Prix of Monterey at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca, which leads us to the month of August, championship stretch, Portland International Raceway, the Redacted Grand Prix at Portland on August 10th, the Hy-Vee Milwaukee Mile 250 at the Milwaukee Mile on August 24th, and then on August 31st, the Big Machine, Music City, Grand Prix at Nashville Super Speedway. I hear zippers coming undone. I know the race was exciting, but it wasn't that exciting. Call that. 17 rounds, 16 weekends. Of course, there's an Indy 500 in like the first third of it. And I mentioned it. We had 6 races just announced earlier this week that are going to be extended to add excitement. Those races are Long Beach, Mid-Ohio, the aforementioned 2 Iowa rounds, Toronto, and Nashville, all adding more laps.
I'm going to say I'm not a fan of the added laps. I think part of the fun of Long Beach was seeing Scott Dixon and the alternative strategy be viable. Adding 5 laps to Long Beach kind of kills that off, and I'm not necessarily a big fan of that change per se. We'll have to wait and see about the other ones. I mean, 10 more laps to Mid-Ohio, that's now a 90-lap race. As RJ alluded to, Iowa's races are now 275. They've added 25 more laps to them, so about 20 miles or so.
They got to change all the promotional material that said these are the Hy-Vee home front and Hy-Vee one-step 250s.
275.
Now you're going to cross them out, 275.
The extra laps in Mid-Ohio will help, though. The extra laps at Mid-Ohio are going to help because it was comfortably a 2-stop race, and now it's going to be even more varied now.
Good. Yeah, fair enough. Toronto's up 5 laps to 90, and Nashville is now up 19 laps to 225 laps now. So a little bit longer over there. We'll have to see how this plays out. Some of them I'm a fan of, some of them I'm on the fence about. We'll have to wait and see. My personal thoughts on this calendar, I'll keep them brief. I'm not keen on Thermal becoming a championship round, but you probably didn't need me to tell you that. Thermal did not go well last year. I don't care how many influencers are being paid to tell you otherwise. It was a hot mess. Making it a championship round is not going to make or alleviate any of the problems that came about from that race last year. The facility is not really fit to run a 27-car IndyCar race weekend, and they'll probably keep that same tournament format they had last year to thin the pot down and then get a smaller race at the end of it. We'll have to see how it plays out. It felt like a B2B marketing event last year. It probably will feel that way again. Also, 5 races in the month of July. Whew, that's busy. And the fact the whole thing...
solid.
The whole thing is done on August 31st. Now, given that there is a new TV partner we'll get to shortly, I suspect that was done intentionally with football kept in mind. Yeah, get that shit out of the way before football. The NFL season starts traditionally a week later. So the whole season being done with an August at the end is kind of wild to me. In fact, we got 9 races in 12 weeks from the Indianapolis 500 all the way through to Portland in August. It's a busy schedule. I know IndyCar, it's easier with all the domestic travel rather than Formula One's, obviously all around the world calendar, but that's still a very busy schedule. A lot of time in cars, planes, and trucks. I hope everybody will be all right through that.
Absolutely,
through that run.
man. Like,
it's a lot.
I could say, like, I'd say this series could handle up to 20 races. And I say, like, yeah, you probably stretch this thing out to October. Just don't expect good TV ratings if everybody's going to be watching football at the same time. Ask NASCAR people how that's gone.
Not well, RJ. Not well.
Well, then again, they've got a lot of problems. And that leads us into the next big thing. And especially if you're one of our U.S. listeners, you will know that the domestic TV contract moved from NBC to Fox over the offseason. For the UK audience, which is a lot of our listeners, it's still going to be on Sky Sports. So really the only change is going to be some new graphics and a new lap-by-lap announcer joining James Hinchcliffe and Townsend Bell. They're coming over from NBC. Will Buxton has been poached from F1 land to do his dream job of commentating IndyCar. And every race in the U.S. is going to be on free-to-air television. All of them.
Can't deny that is a fantastic move for the Americans. More eyeballs on the product is always good. We used to take the piss that more people watch Sail GP than IndyCar in the United States of America. So the fact that they've now got a new free-to-air home is objectively great news. We'll talk a bit more about how Fox has promoted said shit in a minute, but it's a great move. I'm glad James Hinchcliffe has been retained and they see the talent in him. I can tolerate Townsend Bell as a direct result of James Hinchcliffe being hired. I know there's been a lot of murmurs in the room about Will Buxton. Listen, people, Buxton is now having to move to the US. The man is committed to this. This is a huge opportunity for him to front. I mean, because let's not forget, even if he was not just a play-by-play commentator, he was also hosting the coverage every race. That's a big-ass job, and Buxton has done a very, very good job doing exactly that on F1 TV and making that gig his own. And I know for a fact he is extremely passionate about IndyCar as a series and the quality that it provides on and off the track. If you want, and I know IndyCar fans love a good mascot to help hype themselves up. If that's what you want to front a broadcast, there are few better in global motorsport than Will Buxton, who will cheerlead till the cows come home.
Absolutely. Dude was open about saying he wished he could skip Monaco to go to the Indianapolis 500 instead.
Well, now he can.
Yeah. He loves this shit. So, I don't doubt that he won't be a great anchor for what IndyCar wants and needs on Fox. At the moment, I realized that Lee Diffie was not going to be staying, obviously, as he moves over to NASCAR, which, again, has been a fantastic game for them in their own right. Everybody is eating good on this one, let me tell you. I think Buxton's going to be a great glue to pull these lot together as an outward broadcast. We shall see how the rest of this plays out. Also, Indy Next, getting a TV home is huge for that series as well. It needs the help. I've mentioned before about the Indy Next pathway kind of being overshadowed by the European equivalents with Formula 2 and F3, and then there's still more stories of that which we'll get to when we talk about the roster. But more money, more eyeballs on Indy Next and the next generation is, again, very, very good news. They need the help. They need the coverage. And I'm really glad that hopefully they'll be able to inject a bit more TV money into that series to make the prize worth a little bit, and to ease the burden of that as well, because there's still a big financial jump of getting into IndyCar. And I hope that helps in 2-3 years' time down the road once things are fully established. Let's talk about the promotional aspect of this, because Fox has already thrown a lot of weight behind this. We've had Super Bowl adverts. We've seen them. We've had genuine cross-promotion with NASCAR. Joey Logano was a huge part of their pre-race coverage for Daytona to help promote IndyCar and the Super Bowl as well. He and Josef Newgarden was both there. Penske, former champions, current champion in Logano's case. All good moves there. And as well, the big one, the ones people have been talking about, was been the 3 TV ads they've taken out for 3 of the biggest names in the series: Josef Newgarden, Alex Palou, and Pato O'Ward. I mean, RJ, what have you made of that so far? And what's Chris next?
They knocked it out of the freaking park without all the ads. It is a wonderful start to try and get newer audiences invested that maybe hadn't seen an IndyCar race or hadn't paid attention into a while, because they just thought oh, damn, this was a relic from my father's time or my grandfather's time. It's a good start. I like what they're doing there. I would love to see that moment. And look, there's a lot of situation where I think years 2 and 3, that's going to be the biggest test. But man, it's crazy when you consider NASCAR people are upset that IndyCar is getting this much love from Fox, while the coverage of their series on the same network is just... It's not Mike Joy's fault. I need to be stressed. It's not Mike Joy's fault. He's trying.
It's not.
Mike Joy is the proverbial Bugatti in the shack. After all, Flacco is back, and we can reference him again.
Yes!
For those who don't know, the Luka Doncic trade was so bad it made a dude reactivate his social media.
Exactly.
Just going out for cigarettes.
I was going to say, RJ, I actually have a theory about that. So there has been some social media backlash from NASCAR fans about these commercials with Josef Newgarden, Alex Palou, and Pato O'Ward. Mm-hmm. And this is complete speculation, but I think I'm closer to being on target with this than not. From what I know about NASCAR, they want to have a lot of creative control over everything that comes out with the NASCAR name, branding, image, likeness, that whole deal. I am willing to bet a small amount of money, not a large, small amount, that what IndyCar basically did was they told Fox Creative, here are 3 drivers. Here's the Wikipedia pages. Have fun.
Do what you want.
Yeah. Have at it. And I mean, it's not all been hits. I'll get to that in a minute, but for the most part, they have been excellent. Like the Newgarden advert, the first one that came around, we were all watching with our jaws dropped at what they put in there. And they hit the brief exactly. Josef Newgarden is a ridiculously handsome, half-European beefcake.
Not as handsome as me, says Tom Brady as he snaps into an asparagus stick.
Tom Brady is in the advert. Then the similarities speak for themselves. They talk about how hot he and his wife are. He's a brilliant race car driver. He's
Reminder, his wife is a Disney princess. That is true.
The joke writes itself. The man married a Disney princess. He's living every 24-year-old dude's dream. Only he's 32.
The knight in shining armor.
Exactly. And they played and leaned into that in these promos. And yes, we can talk about how the drivers can be hot. It makes sense. And yeah, it absolutely worked. And yeah, it's whew. So we'll have to get to that in a minute. But yeah, it's a lot. It was very, very good stuff. Alex Palou is the same. I'm a little bit more tetchy about Palou Awards because they did call his fans groupies in that advert. Not a good look. Too far is what I would say. I don't think they did that with the intention of trying to be sexist or misogynistic, but it's too far on that one. Not cool. If you want women to watch your product, don't imply that the only reason that they're there is to try and shag one of the drivers. It's not a great look. I have to acknowledge that, and it deserves to be mentioned if you're going to gas them up.
Because some of the men want to fuck these drivers too.
Of course. But at the same time, implying that on a TV broadcast probably isn't the best idea. Bit much on that one, but the sentiment was there, and they are funny, they are well done adverts, and it is actually refreshing to see IndyCar get some love on the way in.
Nice to see IndyCar get advertisements and have its broadcasting network put it front and center in front of the whole nation multiple times during the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
That is a damn sight more than we've seen out of just about anything.
That Super Bowl wasn't enjoyable otherwise, unless you're a Philadelphia Eagles fan.
No.
Look, it was a 4-hour-long homicide with a 13-minute homicide sprinkled in right in the middle. Say Drake. No. I think it's a great step in the right direction in terms of just getting something out there and making sure that people are at least aware of the product.
Yeah.
And to that effect, they also don't take themselves too seriously, which is very refreshing.
Fox Sports is always been Fox Sports' attitude towards like advertising big time sports ever since they got in the biz with the NFL 30 years ago.
Exactly. All good stuff there. A couple of other major changes. We have the charter system that's now in full effect. We are now seeing that 10 tenured teams, everybody except Prema, got between 2 or 3 charters for their team, obviously depending on how many cars they currently have. 25 cars in total will now run under this new charter system. It secured revenue, guaranteed entry into every race, thankfully, except the Indy 500. Thank God that was taken off the table. I did not want to see the 25-8 rule come back into effect. That will not happen, thankfully. Essentially, it is every current car on the field, barring the 2 Premas. Marshall Pruitt named it the 3, 22, 25, 27 system. It's a good way of describing it. 3 charters per team, 22 Leaders Circle payouts. They'll still be getting Leaders Circle money if they're in the top 22 eligible cars. 25 chartered cars in total, and the maximum grid size for everything but the 500 is now locked in at 27. Prema are the only non-charter team licensed to compete, so that should not be an issue for any of the other rounds on the calendar, barring Indianapolis. Of course, we'll talk about the extras trying to get into that field a little bit shorter from now. Also, there's been a couple of business changes. Doug Bowles, the president of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, is now the new president of IndyCar in general, replacing Jay Fry. I know Doug Bowles is talked out in very positive terms for his work with IMS and his general love and care for the Speedway and its fans and the series fans in general. So I know that's been looked at as a very positive move for IndyCar. I hope that holds up. I've heard nothing but good things about Doug Bowles as IMS president. Chris, I think you can back me up on this one because you're an Indiana man yourself. But that seems like a very positive hire.
100%. I wish it would have happened years ago. If I'm being honest, I can tell you right now, I don't see how he continues to do the job at IMS that he's done for the last several years, unless he does a lot of delegating. He's probably the one man in Indiana that's going to get less sleep than Roger Penske during the month of May. Although I'm not sure how he gets any sleep in the month of May in the first place. But the guy just lives, eats, and breathes the Speedway and IndyCar, and quite frankly, he is the right man for the job. I just hope that it doesn't burn him out too much doing both jobs. Although I can tell you this much, during the month of May, he's going to be, as some would say, he would be in hog heaven because he's got the best job in the world being the president of not only IndyCar, but the Speedway when everybody is in town. So I'm looking forward to seeing how he's going to handle that month. It's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to this.
Absolutely. I can back that up. Chris is the perfect person to handle that because IMS is basically his second home with all the racing commitments he got. I will say it did seem like a lot of people are sad that Jay Fry is gone. I think a lot of people are very sad that Mark Miles is still here, Chris. So what do you make of that?
My whole thing with Jay and Mark is that Jay had these coins made MSH, GSD, and this would probably be one of the first times I've ever sworn on this podcast, standing for make shit happen, get shit done. I look at IndyCar under Jay Fry's leadership, and I keep thinking, what else could have been? The talk of a third engine manufacturer was just ongoing after Lotus/Judd left the series. What happened? Nothing. Hybrid talk, it was introduced, I think in 2019 is when it was actually discussed or announced, and it didn't happen until 2024. Meanwhile, IMSA in that same time frame announced a new GTP formula with convergence with Le Mans in January of 2020, 2 months before the world came to an end, which, God, it's going to be 5 years next month. Anyway, they got that done. What was it, 2023?
2023 was the first race with the LMDH formula. So
they managed to get that done an entire year sooner after announcing it 8 months later. Meanwhile, I keep going back to this point. I'm sorry for bringing this up because I think this might be the second or third time I brought this up to y'all before, not on the show, but in 2012, that's when IndyCar had the new chassis and engine formula debut. DW12, Honda, Chevy, Lotus. Not anymore.
For 5 minutes.
Yeah. So in 2015, they put on the aero kits, same engines, all that. 2018, universal aero kits. 2020, aero screen, but still the same engines, still the same tubs. In 2012, we had two separate sports car series in America, the American Le Mans Series and Grand Am. They ran completely separate prototype and GT formulas. In 2015, they ran a combined prototype class with Daytona prototypes and LMP2 cars competing together. Exactly, right? In 2017, they introduced, I think it was 2017, correct? DPI.
For DPI.
Yeah. Exactly. New regulations for DPI. So then
we've had two entire sets of regulations and cars.
Exactly my point.
We've killed off. We merged the two series, combined the technical rules, and then had a brand new set of technical rules. And then had another set of technical rules with brand new cars.
And I'll go one step further. In NASCAR, we went from, in 2012, the last era of what is now the Gen 5 cars to the entire Gen 6 era, and now we're in the Gen 7 era.
If NASCAR can go through two generations of car in the time frame that we're still on one, NASCAR, the most conservative sunk cost fallacy, nope, ain't getting out of this chair series around. The make shit happen, get shit done mantra, they can speak it all they want, but
new race in Mexico. And then the other thing I definitely wanted to bring up as well, like there is a talk of a new car for 2027. Finally, we have talk of a new car for 2027. Now, we haven't seen the renderings yet. A lot of the drivers have. But actually, to kind of go back to one point a little bit earlier, talking about the new cars and everything like that, on another podcast, J.R. Hildebrand, so you can figure out which podcast I'm referring to, actually said that he had it on very good authority that Callum Ilott's car for the 2023 Indianapolis 500 was actually an original 2012 DW12 car.
Yeah, that's crazy.
He did a good job with it.
He did. But I'll also say, and what's in the back of one of those current IMSA prototypes?
Engines.
That would be the 2.4 liter IndyCar engine that never happened because we canceled them.
but it did happen because it's in the back of an IMSA car that races now.
Yeah, it does race now. It even won a Daytona 24 hours if you ignore certain circumstances.
Indeed. I mean, yeah, look, I've got little to add here. I think it's still embarrassing that we're going to be replacing what will be a 14-year-old car by the time we get to 2027. I like Jay Fry, but his leadership left many a cause for concern. By the end of last year, we were asking serious questions about the overall direction of IndyCar as a series. Something had to give. I'm glad IndyCar's giving somebody else the presidency and the authority to make decisions, hopefully in the best nature of the series going forward. I can only hope that that fresh eyes and a fresh face can help the situation, because we were all, and some of us are bigger IndyCar fans in this call than me, and even the more optimistic ones are looking at this like something's got to give here.
Well, and to that effect, right? Like, unfortunately, there's still a lot of talk that of the two engine manufacturers we've got, one of those is 9 toes and most of their body out the door.
Is this Honda? I saw
Yes.
you flash this up a minute ago. Now's the time to get it in. Yeah, so what happened? I've not seen this.
Yeah, I mean, basically just talking about it. I love the way someone put this for the racer mailbag that quote, Honda is 9 toes out the door once its supply contract is fulfilled after 2026. Is there a chance Penske Bulls could convince them to stay? Of course, but it's starting to feel like Honda is Lauren Hawley and Penske is Jim Carrey in Dumb and Dumber.
Oh, that ain't good.
So you're saying there's
no.
a chance.
There's a chance, but I really hope it's not come too late, this change in the higher ups, before we start losing major critical parts of the series.
As someone told me in Nashville, I mean, the series has to throw Honda more of a bone in terms of off-track things. And I bring this up. Think about this. There are 4 main companies that are putting everything marketing-wise behind IndyCar. What are they?
Fox.
No.
IMS.
In terms of on-track product.
Chevy and Honda.
That's 2.
Firestone and
Yes.
Shell.
NTT.
Yeah.
So where's Chevy based?
Detroit, Michigan.
And there's a race around Detroit.
Yep.
Where is Honda based?
Their HRC US is based in Ohio, and there's a race in Mid-Ohio.
Big Honda, where are they based?
In Japan, but good luck.
Where's Firestone? Where's Firestone based?
Japan.
Where's
Bridgestone.
NTT based?
Japan.
Why don't we have a race in Japan?
Because unfortunately, a genuine act of God wiped out the twin ring Motegi, and now it's just the one ring Motegi. And personally, every time we race around Motegi in another track, another series, and I see the oval being used as a parking lot, it kills me a little inside.
Same.
Massively.
I hate the fact that they can't use the road course there. And, I bring this up because, I've seen it so many times. I would love to see Indy cars at Suzuka. I know it's never going to happen, but I would love to see that.
Oh, buddy.
That would be really cool. And Honda owns the track. But at the same time, there's got to be the audience over there. They've got to have certain assurances that they're going to get the attendance. Now, Japanese racing fans will flock to any number of different series of different shapes and sizes. But for me, if you're going to bring an IndyCar race there, you're going for an oval race. And the undertaking to either build a new track or to fix twin ring Motegi, which structurally is just completely destroyed, it's so expensive, man.
Significant money, tens of millions.
Honda is going to have a certain assurance of a certain amount of money kicked back to them to want to make that investment into their racetrack.
Yeah.
Because it ain't going to be cheap.
And then once you resurface the track, you also have to think about installing safer barriers around the whole place and other fixes around it. Look, like, it's a fun idea. I want to see
had safer barriers, though. Motegi had safer barriers there. Otherwise, they wouldn't have raced there.
Yeah, I'm not tripping. Yeah.
But we're still talking millions and millions of
Tens of
dollars.
millions.
Hey, they don't have to spend it on Nissan anymore.
Yeah.
No, they don't.
I'll quickly get this out of the way before, because we're already 50 minutes deep into this already. But I wanted to mention as well the Indy 500 editions, which we definitely know are confirmed for now. There's 6 in total at the moment. Helio Castroneves is back for Meyer Shank Racing again. He'll be 50 before this race kicks off, God willing.
I don't know. I'm pretty sure Dre, his Daytona week aged him about another 10 years.
Yeah. He'll be 65 and take it collected his pension by the time that May comes around.
In the bag.
No kidding. We have the 2 DRR Kushik racing cars of Ryan Hunter-Reay, the 23, and new partner Jack Harvey in the 24. Good to see Jack back on the grid in some capacity. We do know Jack around here, but number 33, Ed Carpenter, of course, is back for another go in the team of his own name. Of course, we'll talk about them very shortly. And Marco Andretti is back in the number 98 as well. His 20th attempt at this race. He's still only 37.
All my bones are now touching one another everywhere. This sucks.
Like Marco Andretti's Indy 500 debut is legal to drink in the US as of next year. That is a terrifying thought for everybody involved. And of course, the big one of the part-timers, Kyle Larson, is back in the number 17 Arrow McLaren. We're brought to you by Rick Hendrick for the Hendrick 1100 double. His second attempt at that after it all went a bit tits up last year due to rain delays. You hate to see it. But Kyle Larson is back for another crack at the greatest race on earth and a NASCAR weekend as well. The Hendrick 1100.
What do you think it was a Coke 600? No, not anymore.
No. I can also
not
say,
a long time.
Almost certain we're getting Takuma Sato back with RLL, just waiting for the confirmation on that.
Yeah,
and
Honda announced that he was going to drive and somewhere in IndyCar, like with the Indy 500, all the way back in December, but they didn't announce a team.
Yeah,
very likely it's RLL.
Probably trying to find a team that isn't RLL to run on an oval because, sweet Jesus.
More on that later, but Takuma Sato almost certainly will be there, just a matter of who with. And likely Romain Grosjean, who is Prema's new reserve driver. We were talking about them very shortly. Grosjean is almost certain he'll get a third Prema for a 500 attempt, which would put the current standings at 35 entrants for 33 spots, barring anyone. There's a big rumor floating around that Jimmy Johnson and Tom Brady might join forces with Chip Ganassi to put a 4th car on the grid.
God, the 2 most hated American athletes of the late 2000s, early 2010s, joining forces.
With Seb Bourdais, Paul Tracy's favorite single-seater driver.
We need to, after we're done here, we need to ask King how he feels about that, because I feel like those two joining forces, the banes of his existence to support his champ car boy.
Super vanilla. What a time to be alive. So we're looking at 35 entrants for 33 spots, possibly 36, depending. We'll have to wait and see. We're getting a big old bump day, likely in May. More on that. Obviously, we'll keep you posted on future IndyCar shows when we get confirmation on that. But yeah, 33 definite entries, 35 almost certain, maybe even 36. More on that as we get it. Right, we've spent 55 minutes talking already, so let's get into the grid itself, because this is a lot to get through.
Brand new team. Prema Racing.
Start us off. Prema Racing is here. As we like to call them on this show, Title Town, over from the land of junior motorsport. They've been the dominant
2,
forces.
3, regional, 4, and now they're coming to IndyCar with 2 drivers that won World Endurance Championship races. In the number 90, Callum Ilott from the United Kingdom, and the number 83 of rookie Robert Schwartzman from Parts Unknown.
Parts Unknown.
I think the nickname in our server discussions were Robert Schwartzman's from not 1 fail state, but 2, which the jokes write themselves on that. Hi, Jason. Thanks for listening. Yes, Robert Schwartzman and Callum Ilott in a brand new team. I mean, look, they speculated early on that they wanted 1 veteran IndyCar driver with one of their alumni to go with the brand synergy. I think this is just about as good a team as they could have realistically put together.
Alumni, because Callum ran for them in 2017 in Formula 3, and when you think of how tight Prema is with Iron Leeds, it's now part of the same billion-dollar holding company. Callum's run with them before. They hit it out of the ballpark with the driver hires. They hit it out of the ballpark with a lot of their personnel hires. I mean, getting Ryan Briscoe as a sporting director is also great. And I mean, when it comes to an overarching technical director, working with guys like Guillaume Capietto, who's basically like Prema's longtime technical director responsible for all their single-seater success abroad, got some great engineering talent. I mean, you can't ask for a better technical director on the IndyCar side than Michael Kanaan.
He's gone.
About that, Michael Canaan's gone.
Where'd he go?
My God.
A case of left on red. So it's come out.
Michael Kanaan has since spoken about his experience with Prema on the record, and he lasted 2 months with the team and essentially said that he was ignored and not listened to as the team was finalizing its development for this upcoming season. Kanaan thought like his place in the team was already alienated, and he quit back in January. So, and this is a big deal because Michael Kanaan is arguably the most revered race engineer in IndyCar right now. He was accredited with a huge amount of AJ Foyt's rebirth, which we'll talk about a little bit later on in the show.
Engineered that devastating run from Dixon that was only stopped by being too fast entering pit road because there was nothing that anyone could do about him for that 500.
No, yeah.
I guess the good news for them is that he's on a 6-month gardening leave. He negotiated down, so like he can't jump straight into anybody else and make it their problem. But on the other hand, if you're a team that is the only open team that is just like, right, we're not getting any leader circle money, we're not getting any charter money, we got to hop on one foot and try and make it not a problem.
Not ideal.
No, it's not brilliant.
And you now got, let's be real here, a lot of your potential prize money is coming from the Indy 500, and the best Indy 500 race engineer you've got has already bolted, and you've got 3 bites at the cherry here. All of a sudden, I'm scared this team might get at least 1 car bumped, and that would be a significant financial burden to Prema if that were to happen. And let's be real here, it's a very inexperienced team for the most part. They haven't got Michael Kanaan, and Robert Schwartzman's never driven an oval in his life. I'm not convinced on this. This is, I mean, Hardy, you're nodding your head at me like, this has got to be cause for concern.
100%. The fact of the matter is that if Michael Kanaan was being ignored by Prema, then there's something else that's got to be going on in the background that really should be a cause of concern for a lot of people. Now, don't get me wrong. In the European ladder system, Prema has done wonderful things. They've had a great run of championships. A lot of drivers driven for them that are in very high places in motorsport. But IndyCar ain't exactly the easiest form of motorsport to get into. Trevor Carlin proved that when he came over to this series in 2018. They got what? 1, maybe 2 top 5 finishes in their entire time here.
No one proved that more publicly and more laughably, as longtime listeners of the show will know, than McLaren partnering up with Carlin and basically treating it as we're from Formula One. We're the big fish in the little pan. They've been bumped by a bunch of guys in a shed with a backup car. And that is not an overestimation of where Juncos was at that time.
No.
Yeah. In 2018, Carlin got between their 2 cars of Charlie Kimball and Matt Shilton 1 top 5 finish. That was Charlie Kimball at Toronto. That was the only top 5 finish they ever had. The only pole they got was Connor Daly at Iowa in 2020, the pandemic year. They had 2 cars bumped for the Indy 500 field. And I say, like, for Prema, just be better than Carlin. It's a low bar to clear, but I'd like to think
it's a bar they need to clear.
Callum Ilott now, first of all, Callum Ilott should have never been displaced from the series. He got a great fallback gig last year, but he was done dirty on the way out. It's great that he's back. I'd like to think he's better than what Charlie Kimball was in 2018. And I certainly think that Robert Schwartzman is a couple touches better than what Max Chilton was when he arrived. And Max Chilton wasn't even all that terrible. He just wasn't all that great either.
Robert Schwartzman was an excellent single-seater racer. He was a Formula 2 championship contender, a multiple-time race winner, and he had blistering speed in two different senses. One, blistering speed, and two, blistering of his tires.
Yeah, never seen a set of tires that he wouldn't treat like chewing gum.
He's going to love Firestones.
Oh, yeah. You can pound them motherfuckers. But look, the point is that if Schwartzman has evolved as a driver since then, he has always been extremely fast in whatever you've gifted him. He's a very talented driver.
He was very solid in WEC last year in the I can't believe it's not a factory Ferrari 499P.
Yeah.
The inverse car, for those who don't know, the
yellow one
with red. Mm-hmm. But I have to say, it's concerning because of the almost like seemingly the level of vitriol that's kind of come out after the fact. Because if it was just a clash of personalities, that's one thing, and like that's natural in motorsport. We see it often enough. But to outright ignore someone who objectively has been a phenomenal technical mind in IndyCar, who has pretty much turned everything he's touched to gold over the last couple of years, it's just concerning.
I just hope that Renee Rossan, Deborah Meyer, yes, that Deborah Meyer of Iron Dames fame, she's the co-owner of the team. I hope and I hope the rest of the staff know what they're doing.
Yeah, because if they do go out on track and their on track product is subpar, there's going to be some major questions asked about who they had and who they decided not to keep.
I think I'll give them. You could give them a small mulligan. You can give them a mulligan in year one. I think year two and year three of this project is where we're going to really gonna want to start seeing the rubber meet the road.
Yep.
Yeah.
Dale Coyne next on our list, and we had Jacob Abel confirmed as a new rookie a couple of months ago that he'd be in the 51 car, but we, with days out from this recording, was looking at 18 with TBA, our old buddy and friend, not knowing who was going to be in this car.
My favorite Alpine technical director.
Yes, TBA. Yes, who knew they could drive as well, but until... only a couple of days ago did we get the official confirmation in the number 18 car, Rinus VeeKay is back in IndyCar. Spin move!
I'm still mad about it.
Yes.
I'm not going to log off. Pair of pliers and a blowtorch.
But yeah, Rinus VeeKay is back in IndyCar. He's in the number 18 car. Shout out to Arthur who mentioned it. Dale Coyne himself will be VeeKay's race strategist. He'd been doing a lot of the testing for Dale Coyne going into the season. So there was always like an optimistic hope that they'd find a way to get Rinus on the grid, and they have figured it out and they've signed the bottom line. So Rinus VeeKay is back in the 18 alongside Jacob Abel in the 51. The talk going into this season, RJ, was that DCR just wanted and needed security, more than anything else. And at least I hope they found something, because look, I don't want to tarnish anybody with this brush per se, but Jacob Abel does bring good funding to the table. There's no getting around that.
He is a very interesting. I don't know if you can call somebody who's like the heir to like a large like construction company like an underdog story, but at least purely on his driving career. I mean, he's done the entire SCCA open wheel ladder. He's done the entire road to Indy ladder, top to bottom. He's dallied in GT3 cars. He's dallied in stadium super trucks. He's driven a lot, and now he gets a chance to drive an Indy car. And I will say, as if you just have him for the full season and whatever backing him and his family brings, it may be 27th a lot of days, but that's a better 27th than what they had a lot of times last year. Because look, they had better drivers in 2024, but they didn't have them for long. I mean, this time last year, we were thinking about just like, what if hypothetically they had Jack Harvey and Nolan Siegel split the scene? And what if hypothetically they could scrape enough change for Colin Braun to run the season? Colin Braun didn't even run but like 2 rounds.
1 round.
It was just, complete lack of continuity. And when you have that level of instability in the team, you just spin in your wheels. And that's how Dale Coyne Racing has felt the last really 2-3 years.
A reminder, folks, so for the viewers at home and for the people on the other call, how many drivers drove for Dale Coyne last year in total? No, more.
Yeah, 9.
9.
Yeah.
9 different drivers took part in at least one race for Dale Coyne.
Dale Coyne's had to do that to get by before, man.
So much so, they've had to change the rules of these charters to make sure it doesn't happen again, so that you're only allowed 3 drivers per car over the course of the season. So this was a serious deal. And yeah, it's been nicknamed the Dale Coyne rule, which kind of says it all, really.
If you get a rule named after you in sports, it's generally either very positive or very negative on your performance.
Yeah, so a reminder for those people who may have miscounted: Jack Harvey, Nolan Siegel, Connor Daly, Hunter McElroy, Colin Braun, Luca Giotto, Catherine Legg, Tristan Vautier, and Toby Sowery all drove at least one race for Dale Coyne over the course of 2024.
I mean, that's like a solid 3-car LMP2 team when you put all 9 of those people.
Yeah.
Like, so in all seriousness, like...
Go on, Chris.
And that's just the on-track change up that they had. After 2023, they lost every mechanic / engineer they had except for maybe 1 or 2.
Jesus.
And like, for example, David Malukas is race engineer for 2023. He got a call to go to Penske Porsche Motorsports in IMSA.
Wow.
Yeah, it's
Roger.
I appreciate
think I'm gonna
his services. Let's just say.
Roger Penske calls you. Do you really want to turn that down?
No, you'd be a fool to do that. Like, more than anything else, this is a team that needs stability. It needs a solid pair of drivers they can build around and work from. And hopefully, financially, it's enough to keep them afloat, because there was a lot of talk towards the end of last year that this team might not be long for this world much longer. It's a good pairing. Jacob Abel is a very capable pair of hands. He was very solid in Indy Next last year, won 2 races, was the only person in Louis Foster's postcode on many occasions last year. And Rinus VeeKay, we all know of his quality. IndyCar race winner in Indianapolis in the past. A guy that is, like, I don't think it's the best platform for him per se, because he came from Ed Carpenter Racing, but I'm just glad he's still on the grid. Chris, I think wanted to
like Rinus with at Dale Coyne Racing he won races with Ed Carpenter Racing. Just my own opinion, no expectations for Rinus. We know he's good. He's a champion on the road to Indy. And from what I've heard from a couple of people that are more deeply entrenched in the situation, the mechanics at DCR like him. So Dale Coyne's weathered bad storms before. I mean, he's had, Christ's sakes, he had Mochaduno on the team at one point. But yeah, I know, right? I think that they just needed to weather 2024 to get to 2025, and I think they're going to be a lot better in 2025. I mean, you got Jacob Abel, who, I mean, you mentioned all the racing he's done. I mean, you could say that he's built a solid foundation for his career, right?
Mm-hmm.
Look, man,
that joke counter 2.
Hey, look, he's even the score. And I'll say this for Rinus, and like, I don't know how much of it was down to ECR or how much of it was down to him, but this feels like this is Dale Coyne's best shot at an Indy 500 win since Seb Bourdais broke his hip during time trials in 2017.
If nothing else, even if you're the harshest Rinus VeeKay critic in the world, he is outstanding in Indianapolis. Hi, Cameron.
Well, look, he was doing really solid before he drove into the side of Alex Palou in the pit lane.
One thing that they need is just to get cars back in that top 22, back in the leader circle. That is their most important.
It's the best thing that they can do
of the 2025 season. With Rinus, I know they have a driver that can get them there.
Absolutely.
See with Jacob Abel.
We saw last year, right?
In the chamber.
We saw last year with Juncos, like, all it takes sometimes is one really damn good day, and that might be enough for you.
Think about this. At qualifying for this past year's Indy 500, Rinus had a crash in the practice on Saturday morning. He was 27th or 28th in time trials. He went with about 10 to 15 minutes to go into the fast lane, that lane where you give up your time and try again. And the team, they had repaired the car all day. They did one, run just to get him in the show. Then they went and worked on the car a little bit more. And he got into the fast 12 with like less than 10 minutes to go. So the kid knows how to drive fast. The kid knows how to push like crazy. It's just a matter of making sure that you remember you're not at a team that has a lot of money. You're at a team that is a lot smaller in scope. I mean, he's been to the shop. He's seen how everything goes. They can't even park the trailers in the building at Dale Coyne Racing. It's that small of a building. So it's one of those things where just remember where you are, remember who you're driving for, and everything should take care of itself. Just bring the car back home in one piece with all four corners on it.
Yeah,
no kidding.
The talent's there. This team's been around for 40 years. Dale Coyne, who knows how long he wants to stay in this game. I hope we don't have to start writing this team's obituary come this time in about 8 months. You mentioned Juncos Hollinger Racing because they're next up on our power rankings list. We have Stingray Rob in the number 77 car. He's new, coming over from AJ Foyt, now on his third team in 3 years. Did you pray today? And Connor Daly, who in 7 starts drove for a bunch of teams, ranked 26th in points, but it doesn't matter because he got the podium, they got the 78 car in the leader circle, and that is what matters most.
About that, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, and this is a story that's kind of gone a little bit under the radar in the last few days until really a couple of days ago at the time of recording this on February 19th, if we're being completely honest, with full transparency. About 3 days ago, a public meeting with Connor Daly's main sponsor, Polkadot, went public. It leaked out over the internet. Connor himself was in said call, and, well, I'll read out what Chris has put here notes-wise in the box, because I think it sums it up quite well. Quote, Daly's Polkadot vote was 96% aye with 9 days to go before the referendum ended. With 3 days to go, someone voted against the proposal who had an insane amount of voting power. Someone who had $38 million in DOT voted against the proposal. It was the one person who was able to shift from 96% aye to 72. The vote ended up dying as it fell below 50%. Quote, I'm signed with JH Racing for the season, says Daly. Had 260 aye votes to 110 nays, but the nay votes were worth a lot more. Kind of like the Electoral College. Quote, I'm contracted to drive for the JHR Racing team for the season. Is there some worry in the background for some things? There always is, yes, but we're going to continue every day, and I'm going to focus on being the best racing driver I can be for this team. I mean, Chris, you were listening away at Connor's Speed Street podcast before we just started going on the air. I mean, is there anything more you want to add to that on elaborate on top of it? Because this is, for Daly, it's startling.
Yeah, so the Speed Street podcast typically comes out Wednesday mornings, and I was constantly refreshing my phone at my non-racing job. Like, okay, when's it coming out? So I can put my earbud in so I can listen to it, and never showed up. And I was like, okay, so then all of a sudden, lo and behold, 20 minutes before our scheduled recording, I see Speed Street. I'm like, okay. So, and for those of you who aren't in the chat, like my eyes just went big like saucers. So we discussed changing the show's format for a little bit. I was actually listening to Speed Street while we were recording this so I could get all the information that we needed. It was really one or two people that had a lot of voting power that kind of tanked the entire vote with a week to go before the season started. Now, Connor has a contract to drive throughout the season. I am very, very confident that Ricardo Juncos will honor that contract. Need I remind you, let's go back in time. In 2010, Connor Daly won Ricardo Juncos his very first car racing championship in America, the 2010 Star Mazda title. Him and Ricardo both literally slept inside the trailer at several tracks that year to save money on hotels. They know each other well.
Yeah, they go back a lot.
Say that.
Yeah, like they're as tight as you could be without Connor Daly actually being an Argentine citizen. Although you can marry a nice young woman from Buenos Aires and things can change very quickly.
I don't think his girlfriend Amy is from Buenos Aires, but when he got the podium in Milwaukee last year,
Buckley is just passed out.
They did give him a little bit of hell for that. Now, I'm not sure if we're going to be doing this later on in the show. Like, I know we're going to have like random predictions and things like that. I will go ahead and do one prediction right now. If you have a category for way out there predictions, I will make mine right now. I think Connor Daly, if he runs the entire season, will get at least a top 5 finish this year, if not multiple. Here's why I bring this up. So after the 2021 season ended, Carlin, they withdrew from IndyCar racing. Ricardo Juncos brought a bunch of their mechanics, almost all of them, in from the Carlin team. Connor ran for Carlin during much of the 2020-2021 season on the ovals that Max Chilton was not running.
Yeah.
Now, let's just go ahead and say it for what it is. Connor has a great team owner that has supported him before in the past. He has a great support system with the mechanics behind him that listen to him and they go back and forth on everything like that. Yeah, I think that this is going to be great for Connor this year to have a full season with people he trusts, with everybody all behind him, helping him out. Like I said, you got to pull for Carlin on an oval. Oh, his race engineer, by the way, for that, Luke Mason, who now works for Team Penske. But I digress. A driver can only take a car as fast and as far up as it will go. He got to the podium at Milwaukee, and yeah, he did a great job for them there. I think that if the circumstances are right, he will get at least one, if not more, multiple top 5s for the team this year.
Dare I say, like, one of those top 5s it's the 500's a lock?
I'm not going to say a lock, but I'll say if he does a decent enough job, definitely top 10. He started 29th and finished 10th last year for Dreyer and Reinbold in a one-off for them. I think a top 10 in Indy is certainly doable. If he qualifies in the top half of the field and doesn't have any screw-ups in the first 150 laps, yeah.
That is
100%.
a big friggin' if. Like, I'm going to quote Kira in the chat here. He's on more hopium than me. And Kira's Irish, which kind of says it all. Look.
When we get to Ed Carpenter, well, I'll go ahead and bring in Ed Carpenter Racing right now to this. Connor was let go from Ed Carpenter Racing in midway through, what was it, 2023? 2023, yeah. I'm just trying to make sure I got my years right on that. He actually went to Mid-Ohio and drove in place of Simon Pagenaud after Pagenaud had that massive accident in that race. He did the warm-up session that morning. He finished one spot behind Ryan Hunter-Reay, who replaced him at Ed Carpenter Racing. He was like 4 seconds behind at the finish. I'm a big data guy. I love going through data. A lot of people will see Connor finishing behind Ryan and think, wow, it was the right move because Ryan finished ahead of him. If you look at the fastest lap trial from that race, Connor is 16th. Hunter-Reay was 26th out of 27 cars. The only car below him was Marcus Ericsson, who had a crash on the first lap with Felix Rosenquist. It was one of those situations where Connor had a good car for that race. He only did the warm-up in the race, but he was stuck by Benjamin Peterson for the first third of the race. He knows what he's doing. He didn't have everything meshing together at Ed Carpenter. I think in Yukos Hollinger for 2025, things are going to go a lot better for him this time around.
I certainly hope so, because this thing with Polka Dot looks scary for him, and I don't know how many chances he get if this goes tits up. If this does go tits up, I want to bring in something that happened early this week. Logan Sargent says he's walking away from racing. He had a deal on a trajectory path to be part of the new Genesis prototype program as long as he did the 2025 European Le Mans Series season with EDX Sport, owned by Chip Ganassi racing legend Nick Manassian. Logan walked away from that. The team says he's walking away from sport, and if he is, good for him. Logan got to reach F1, and good for him. If he ends up surfacing in the IndyCar paddock, handing out business cards to any team that might have a vacancy soon,
again,
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, that's the point I was going to make. There was a lot of Connor Daly hopium chuffed over the last 5 minutes here. This polka dot berth was over $3 million of funding. That is that's 60% roughly of a budget for a car for the year. Since I know Ricardo is very loyal to Connor Daly, they've been friends for over 15 years.
And this relationship is not toxic.
No, thank God. And honestly, what Juncos for me needs more than anything else is just a quiet fucking season after what happened last year with Augustine Canapino. But I can't leave that and hang over its head and be absolutely ultra confident that Daly will last the whole year, because money is money, and Juncos didn't have a bucket load of it. Remember, Daly's podium at Milwaukee last year was worth over $1 million to that team.
That's a
yeah, and they just had $3 million yanked out from underneath them.
Yeah, I can't help but run the numbers and think, I'm nervous about Daly's future, and it would be the most bad luck Brian thing of Connor Daly's career where he finally gets the money for a full-time IndyCar seat again after years of treading water and part-time seats and having podcasts that had the floor come out from underneath him, that just when he got back into the series full-time again at age 32, he might end up losing this seat again through circumstances that aren't completely beyond his control. But please, Motorsport, stop taking the funny money. Please. It's embarrassing.
I will say this. Ricardo, with all the crazy things that have happened to Ricardo over the years in motorsport, which I know I'm not supposed to plug other shows, but if you get a chance to listen to Ricardo Juncos' Dinner with Racers 2-parter episode, do it. It's amazing. It's not the first time he lost money in racing.
We like Dinner with Racers here.
We like Dinner with Racers,
right?
I promise.
Eversley's cool with us.
So Ricardo, this isn't the first time he's lost money in a big deal. He lost a lot of money with the IMSA program. In fact, he said it almost took down his entire business, funny enough, which he sold the car to Chip Ganassi Racing. He's proven that he could do a lot with a little. We saw Kyle Kaiser in 2019. He got to the Indy 500, bumping Fernando Alonso from that race. 2 years prior to that, he won the Prema title with Victor Franzoni, despite the fact that Franzoni brought almost no money to the table, and the guy helping fund the ride was a 60-year-old car dealer from Illinois who ended up dying the next year in a Formula 5000 vintage racing accident at Mosport. He lost.
Normal.
Yeah, Ricardo Juncos in 2017.
Ricardo Juncos was able to build this in a cave with a box of scraps.
Pretty much. In 2017, Franzoni won the title for Ricardo and I'm willing to bet Ricardo lost at least six figures on that deal altogether. As long as you get the trophy, you'll figure it out. And that's what Ricardo's had to do time and time and time and time again. I'll figure it out. Ball up top, as the kids would say.
I hope he can, is the biggest thing with that, because
yes,
you can keep losing money and keep losing money until you can't keep losing money anymore. And I hope that this isn't that step that ends up costing Daly his ride, because, again, a thing that this team needs, to paraphrase Dre, a quiet year, continuity is part of that. And being able to employ someone where he does have that relationship, that interpersonal relationship with them, and build that team around him. I don't expect Stingray Rob to do much of anything.
We barely mentioned him.
Yeah, he exists. Moving on.
Yeah.
Look, we can say a lot of mean things about Santino Ferrucci, and we probably will later, but he took that man to a ballroom blitz all year. But, man, the vibes are off, and they were looking so on until about maybe 2 weeks ago.
Indeed, there's no getting around it, and it's a cloud that hangs over this team, another one that hangs over this team, and they need a clean break. And I got a feeling that this might not be the year for it, given Daly's struggles. Quick to Hardy before we move on.
Last thing I'll say, they recently announced that they were going to pause their Indy Next program for 2025. I think this is a good thing for the team. Addition by subtraction. You're not going to be 100%. You're not going to be focused on having mechanics going over here. Now, unless someone comes in with several $1 million and wants to do Indy Next, go for it. But you're having everybody focus on these two cars, and all of your
someone just walked away with several $1 million. So
exactly.
Absolutely. Like if your focus and your end game is the big boy series, you redouble your efforts up.
Exactly. And
entirely reasonable.
Like I said, this is only going to be good. They still have the cars. They can lease them out if they want to. Heaven knows there's how many cars they have in Indy Next this year coming up. So yeah, Ricardo, he'll figure it out. I believe that they'll make it work.
I sure. You know what's more stable than cryptocurrency is
everything.
The food business. ECR. It's not Ed Carpenter Racing. It's ECR. Yeah.
Yeah, our competition is back, and they've got a brand new driver in the number 20 car. Rinus VK is out. In comes Alex Rossi. 10th in the championship last year. He's now in the number 20 car. Christian Rasmussen has been signed and confirmed for the full 2025 season this time, as opposed to the part-time deal he had last year, as Ed Carpenter, right at the end of the season, decided, no, I will give up my remaining oval races from last year to further aid Rasmussen's development. He's back under new ownership. I'm going to embarrass myself here by using the phrase I did not want to use, quote unquote. The Splendor Daddy now owns this team. Ted Galoff now owns this team. I'm going straight to hell for that line.
I gotta say, disease hearing that.
Trey, I gotta say, that line is pretty sweet.
2-1 with a clutch goal from the Stars. God damn it. Alexander Rossi at ECR. Did they just hit the jackpot and trying to finally get that first Indy 500 win?
Maybe.
Well, I mean, Rossi had a pretty good 500 last year.
Look, we all know what ECR are here for. They are 500 specialists at this point. They have a tendency of qualifying extremely well, and having a very solid package to help get them up the field for the Indy 500. Alex Rossi won a 500 at his first attempt. He's been a perennial contender in the years since then. He's been up towards the front of that field. And Christian Rasmussen, in my opinion, should have been Rookie of the Year last year at the 500. Didn't get it. For him. I would have voted for him. Obviously, it went to Kyle Larson because we all know it's a popularity contest with that award, but Rasmussen was 12th at the 500 and was excellent in his first attempt running that race with ECR. If they wanted to build a 500 specialist team, it doesn't get much better than this. It's a very... I mean, look, the issue I have is that this is now, in my opinion, year 5 of... Is the old Alex Rossi coming back? Because ever since I'd go as far back as 2020, we've been wondering if the top 3 title contender Andretti version of Alex Rossi was coming back home to roost, because at that point he was as good as anybody in the series, a genuine free-tool driver who could win anywhere on the calendar in any situation. That person's not been here for some time.
And I'd like to think that he didn't just disappear the second they stuck an aero screen on the car, because that's been one of the leading theories. And I know it impacts some drivers, but like, he's only had one race win, and that was encumbered because all the weight in the car was there, just not in all the places that it should have been.
Yes, the water bottle. I'm still annoyed that we weren't celebrating Christian Lundgaard's first IndyCar win a couple of years earlier. But, I mean, that man's got horrible luck at Indianapolis. Anyway, I mean, yeah, there's no getting around it. I mean, 2019, like, it was the second year in a row Rossi was top 3 in the standings. He's barely been a top 10 guy since then. Which Alex Rossi is going to show up? Maybe if it's just the bottom of the top 10 Rossi, that's enough for ECR for it to be an upgrade on Rinus VK. Maybe so, but you've built this team around Alex Rossi. You sold off part of your charter to be a shot in the arm financially for this team, and you've decided to go all in on Alex Rossi. I'm not sure that's a good investment of your funds, but we'll have to wait and see. I'm not fully convinced personally, but we're going to have to wait and see on that one. I mean, I don't know how you feel about it, gents, but I'm a little bit about this one.
I'm kind of in the same boat. Like, again, Rossi had flashes last year where he almost looked a little bit like his old self. Was very much in the running for that 500 right up until his own teammate kicked the door in, and then had that door kicked back at him by Josef Newgarden. But there is less and less evidence that Rossi is going to come back. There's always the flashes. You get 3 or 4 every year where it's like, damn, he's having a good day. But there's far too many days with Rossi where he's just kind of there.
And that's the problem. He's just another guy floating around the bottom end of the top 10. And the thing is, when you've seen the best of Alex Rossi and the live wire he can be in IndyCar, the biggest antagonist the series had only half a decade ago, it's frustrating when you see that his form is not what it was. That might be enough for a smaller team like ECR regardless, and hopefully Rasmussen can back that up a little bit. I mean, I've said this before. Rasmussen, outside of IndyCar, is quite the talent. Once again, second year in a row, the fastest man in LMP2 at Daytona. The kid's got speed. That's obvious. It's just, can he convert that into single seaters? I can't help but.
I mean, there's an argument to be made that he already has considering he won the Indy Nets title in 2023. Obviously, not every Indy Nets champion goes on to have success at the top level due to circumstances or what. Shout out Spencer Pigot. Man, I really thought I hit a home run there. I think we all did. Rasmussen, now that he has a full season to work with, now he's done 3/4 of his rookie year, and now that he's going into year 2 with a team that we can joke about the Splendid Daddy all we want. Like, that's a much needed shot of an outside investment that ECR desperately needed to try and keep pace with the rest of the upper midfield in IndyCar. Because before that, I was starting to feel like this team was trending way down as a whole.
Like blank at a lot of races.
Yeah.
And you had, Trey, you mentioned earlier, don't take the funny money. Bit Nile was on their cars for quite a bit. You had...
The United States Space Force was on their cars.
Yeah, taking the team new heights, you know?
3-1 right at the first intermission.
And then,
great. Now he has to pull a Warriors and blow a 3-1 lead.
I know, right? But then you had Guy Care for some like grooming thing. I think that was on Rasmussen's car last year. I got everything's in my inbox. I just got to filter through it. But like the side pods in Reese's car were blank for a lot of last year. And like you can't, I mentioned earlier about Ricardo Hugos, but he always seemed to figure it out, you know. He always MacGyvered away out of any situation he was in. But with ECR, like there were worries about, what was going to happen. It's good that they got a cash infusion like that. It enabled them to get, maybe hire some new people to come in and, help the team out and get some new equipment, all that kind of stuff. But remember, their last win was Reynes VK in 2021 at the IMS Road Course. The last win before that, what was it? Carpenter at Texas in like 2014? Yeah, I was at that race. That was where I met one of my best friends.
You were forgetting also. No. Yeah.
Did Joseph win in their colors?
Yeah, right. Joseph. Yeah, that's right.
Win.
Sorry. Yeah, that's right. Joseph won at Iowa in 2016. God, God, that was such a long time ago.
Well, high out of his mind on painkillers as well, because that's when he still had the busted shoulder and collarbone.
Yeah, and that was such a butt kicking too. I don't know how that slipped my mind, but yeah, it's just one of those things where like there's been gaps between wins. Come on, let's get to it.
There's not many teams with bigger gaps between wins. The only ones I can think of are like AJ Foyt.
Yeah.
Let's put it this way. It's allegedly $40 million in new cash coming into ECR. That's huge.
And that's, for 2 cars, that's subsidizing the cars for the year.
Yep.
Yeah, that's
purely on the car side.
Your cars are covered for the next 3 or 4 years minimum. Yep. Yeah, that's a big money.
You don't have to worry about empty side pods with Java House and Splenda all up in these mugs.
I have to say the Splenda car looks lovely.
It does.
And I've been to Java House. Coffee there is pretty good.
I'll take your word for it.
Next up, Meyer Shank Racing. Again, a bit of a change around. Number 60, Felix Rosenquist, still there. 12th in the standings last year. That was the best single season that a Meyer Shank car has had since coming over to IndyCar in the first place. He'll be joined in the number 66 car this year by Marcus Armstrong. Fucking podcasters. And yeah, he'll be in the 66 this year. He makes the move over from Chip Ganassi Racing after their downsizing from 5 cars last year to 3. More on them at the end of the show. But, for me, Felix was excellent last year, and at times he was incredibly fast. Like, on raw speed, as quick as anyone in the series. I remember before the month of May, Felix was breaking lap records, qualifying on the front row, and just with sheer raw speed, he's up there with anybody. It's been a matter for Shank, in my opinion, of converting that into race pace.
Yeah,
and when they
had a bit of the 2013 Mercedes F1 car bug for a lot of last year, where they would be grease lightning in qualifying and then fall off a cliff come race day.
So is this where I mentioned the big off-season change? And no, it's not Marcus Armstrong. It's the new technical alliance with Chip Ganassi Racing. The Andretti Alliance is done. In comes the Ganassi Alliance. It's not just so that Scott Dixon and Alex Palou can continue to race in IMSA. This is also to benefit the IndyCar side, to benefit Marcus Armstrong, give him a little bit of continuity in his new setup. And for Felix Rosenqvist, this should only do good things, I feel.
100% agree. You got two former Chip Ganassi Racing drivers there working in a technical alliance with the team they used to, be with. I only see positives for the situation. And then you got Helio with the 500.
If nothing else, look, he may have a 100% crash rate in NASCAR, and no, Brett Griffin, that's not on him. You whiny bitch.
Why are you talking to somebody who's chronically unemployed?
Yeah. Yeah, he's spotting as many NASCAR races as me right now. However, he's always good for a showing at the 500. Always has been. And at this rate, Father Time's going to be looking over his shoulder thinking he might always be.
This Brazilian's got hands. It's going to be like I said, this is going to be the age 50 attempt for Helio, which is wild to even consider. But he is Helio, and he finds a way to get it done. We never thought we'd win number 4 in 2021 until he did. And you can never quite rule out Helio until it's all said and done. The Shank car has generally been pretty good at the 500. It's been pretty good everywhere, and the Ganassi partnership is excellent for this team. We all know how good an all-rounder Chip Ganassi can be.
Only the defending Drivers' Championship winners.
And honestly, Marcus Armstrong had 4 top 5 finishes last year. The upside on the Kiwi is high.
Is it that high, though?
I think on road and street courses it is. I think he needs to show a bit more on ovals. I know you've been down on Armstrong from the start, RJ.
I have not been. He is talented, but even going back to his days in European sales, was he ever the number 1 prospect within the Ferrari Driver Academy?
No, but he doesn't need to be.
Eilert or Schwartzman or Mick.
When you have those guys up ahead of you, and I know a lot of that misfortune he had was down to the mechanical lottery.
Well, look, we can talk about how we can talk about. Look, this is a Mechrochrome free zone. We only have good engines in IndyCar most of the time.
And Armstrong had his first podium finish at Detroit last year. He was in the top 5 4 times. I think he was, and the way he drove on road and street courses said to me it wasn't a fluke last year.
And I think a huge element of it as well, and we'll get to this a little bit with Chip Ganassi proper, but I'm of the opinion that last year Ganassi kind of overextended themselves trying to support 5 cars.
100%.
100%. And I mean, in Milwaukee, I got to stand next to their garage as they were building up the cars. It's very cool to see a giant 200 mile per hour Lego set get put together. But a lot of mechanics, a lot of people almost trying to stay out of one another's way.
Yeah. Being able to mention, this was also Ganassi with 5 IndyCar cars and a multi-continent prototype program that's now gone.
Well, Earl Bamber was racking up repair bills left and right with that. So
indeed,
mechanics got well paid over at CGR. But my thing is, I think you distribute some of that engineering talent over to MSR, and you got the drivers over there. I think it's addition by subtraction for CGR. And I think MSR gets some really high quality technical staff who can then just laser and focus in on 2 cars with 2 drivers who are of proven quality.
Wouldn't surprise me if at least one of their cars cracked the bottom end of the top 10 overall this year. They've got the speed and they've got the talent for it. Rosenquist, as I mentioned last year, best ever season for an MSR car in 12th in the standings. Could have, arguably should have been even more. Felix is quick. Lightning quick at his very best. And
I free from the McLaren stink.
Indeed. I'm going to go a little bit quicker on pace because we've already done an hour 40, but we're having fun, so who cares? AJ Foyt next up. And, well, this is going to be a very interesting team. Number 14, Santino Ferrucci. He's still here off the back of last year, signed up on a brand new multi-year contract. Yes, he was 9th in the championship last year. A Foyt, 9th. More top 10 finishes for Foyt in a car than in over 20 years with that team last year. He's got a brand new teammate, and he's everybody's favorite IndyCar meme lord, David Malukas, in the number 4 car as his teammate. He was 24th in the standings, only had 10 starts last year. We all know about the McLaren fumbling and the broken wrist that derailed Malukas' career for a little while. But
look, I will have you know, I saw them in person. I know that the McLaren Malukas diecasts exist.
They are a thing. They're available for discount at Indianapolis Motor Speedway shop right now. But yes, this is look. The thing with Foyt is we all know we were celebrating, and I say celebrated loosely here, the fact that this was a team that looked like it finally turned a corner last year. A team that was struggling, and all of a sudden Michael Kanaan was in the camp. And Ferrucci actually looks like the driver we all thought he could be 5 years ago. It actually happened. They put together a damn good season. How much of that was on Michael Kanaan? I think we might be about to find out. This is going to be the test. Is Ferrucci legit?
Prove it year.
Huge prove it year.
For me, maybe the biggest prove it year on the entire grid for a team.
Yes. How much of this was on Kanaan's success? How much of this was Ferrucci actually turning a corner and improving as a driver? We'll find out. There's a big smoking gun here as well. David Malukas in the number 4 seat. And I think it's actually quite the opposite to MSR I was talking about earlier with Malukas. Not so great on road and street courses. Demonic on short ovals. Holy shit.
Greased lightning.
On short ovals, Malukas is a potential race winner. I'm shocked he hasn't had one. I mean, 2 years ago, if that race at Gateway was 1 lap longer, Malukas probably wins.
If it was 1 quarter longer, the man was shot out of a cannon. Yeah, I think, and Chris, you and I talked about this over in Indianapolis over a plate of rib tips and barbecue sauce, the importance of data. And the guy to interpret that data, and Michael Kanaan, might be gone. But for me, now Foyt will have 2 cars that they can get good data from.
That Penske alliance is still there. I mean, look at James Schnabel, who is going to be dual engineer and strategist for David Malukas, who, by the way, is said to be on a trajectory program to Penske, should any one of those 3 seats become available.
Is David Malukas the star of Penske's future? Is he maybe the next number 12 driver? If he beats Ferrucci,
say about it right now.
If he beats Ferrucci straight up this year in a Foyt, is there going to be pressure from Penske to maybe pull the pin on Will Power, who's in a contract year this year?
It depends on if I hate to phrase it like this, but if Will wins the title this year, which he can do, he won it in 22.
Absolutely.
Within range. He was within ballpark last year.
Yeah, I know. He was. If he wouldn't have, there were 3 main screw ups with Will last year. They had the Milwaukee spin, he had the Toronto contact with McLaughlin. He was in a podium spot for that, and then the belts coming undone at Nashville. But he was there. His form over the last several years has been great. It's just a matter of there's that Spaniard again.
Well, it's an element of that, and also Penske, the 3 Penskes getting in each other's way, figuratively and literally at times, and taking points off of one another, while Alex Palou sees them have crashes and goes, I simply do not have this problem.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
So, I guess I would like to see Malukas reach that top step of the book because he has been agonizingly close. He was agonizingly close with Dale Coyne Racing, man.
Yeah,
And
their last
year.
Yeah, there is alternate universes where he might be a 2 or 3 time IndyCar race winner already.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
say that about the other guy too, man. I mean, they don't have Michael Kanaan as technical director of the program, but they're
still partnered with Penske.
Mm-hmm.
And if of all the things we could say about Penske last year, in every series, the speed was not the problem most of the time.
It's a very good team on paper. Again, their aim should be really get at least one car in the top 10 again. Prove that there wasn't a fluke last year. If you can do that, we are looking at AJ Foyt as a serious midfielder for the first time in, probably since Carlos Munoz was a driver for this team, and Connor Daly was the teammate.
I'd go longer than that, honestly. I mean,
the Sato years where he almost won back-to-back races after winning Long Beach and just got pipped out by Hinchcliffe in Sao Paulo. That's how long it's been since this team has been that relevant.
Over a decade.
Think about this. AJ Foyt Racing won the 1999 Indianapolis 500 with Kenny Brack. Since that time, 26 years ago, they've had 2 wins. 2002 with Ayrton Doherty, I think it was like Kansas or Kentucky, one of the two. And Sato at Long Beach in 2013 for Foyt.
They are
as far away. We're now further away from Sato's win in Long Beach than Sato's win was from
Kenny Brack winning the 500.
Well, I'll say from Dari because that was the last one after Kenny Brack.
They are due. They are overdue, and the talent in the cockpit is not the problem here.
I think I've been alive for 3 wins. The first one being that 500. What day was that race in '99? I need to know.
While we look that up.
Because as a matter of fact, this year's Indy 500 is like the Indy 500 is always the weekend of my birthday.
It was May 30th,
1999.
May 30th?
Yep.
I was 1 day old, baby.
One.
Right under the line.
I was sitting in the turn 1 stands that year.
Lucky bastard.
Lucky bastard. Right, next up on our list, and I think they might have been very generously placed here.
What I wanted to do was put all the 3-car teams together and all the 2-car teams together.
No, I get it.
Of all the 3-car teams, we're obviously starting in our power rankings with the lowest ranked one, which is Ray Hall, Letterman, Lanigan Racing, the only team to have been rated by the feds in the offseason. Ray Hall is back for his 18th year in the season, which matches 2024 ranking. Definitely.
You can't just gloss that over.
Just drop that in there like it wasn't even a thing.
No. We'll talk about that shortly. Devlin DeFrancesco is back after a year of running the Michelin Endurance Cup in GT cars. He was a sprightly 22nd in 2023, and Ryan King still has not forgiven him. And new to the series, the 2024 Indy Nets champion in the number 45 car, vacated by Dre's other boy, Christian Lundgaard, is Dre's other boy, Louis Foster.
Say his name and he appears. I believed in the Foster.
Joe Hendry has gotten so much up his own ass trying to get himself over. It's crazy.
Shut up. Anyway, I mean, yes, this is, look, there's no getting around it. I will actually, I will read out my first paragraph of my Haters Guide review on this because it sums it up quite well. Quote, "It's hard not to label RLL as anything less than miserable off the back of their 2024. Graham Rahal had his worst season in a decade, vented openly about his struggles within the team, how much he didn't like the new hybrids, and only cracked the top 8 once all year. Their oval form was shambolic, so embarrassing they were nearly beaten in outright speed in Milwaukee by Louis Foster's next car, and they lost their talismanic driver Christian Lundgaard to McLaren. This was before their base was raided by the FBI due to accusations of espionage from Andretti. Besides that, it was great."
Yeah, even the FBI was kicking their door and like, "How are you so ass?"
I will say this. Pietro Fittipaldi, I believe, was the last car of the 3 that had the issues at Milwaukee where Louis Foster's Indy next car was faster. If my memory is correct, I need to actually see the clip on this. During the Brazilian Grand Prix of practice session that was broadcast on F1 TV. If my memory is correct, Pietro Fittipaldi actually spoke on the broadcast and said that that car actually had a crack in the tub. If that's true,
good.
That would do it.
that would explain a lot. My question is, in the off season, and I need to get in touch with a couple of people about this. What changes were made technically to the team ahead of 2025? Rahal, we know, can drive. We've seen it. Like, he's got a body of work where he's won races before, and he knows how to get through the field.
Saw it, Chris, right? We've seen it at road courses that there's still flashes in the old dog.
Yes,
he can still get that car up the grid. He was still the best thing about them at times last year. But
if Graham Rahal had more Fast Six qualifying appearances, you could call him in for a win or two almost every single year. It's like he has no problem getting through the field. It's the fact that if you start further up,
this old dog has spent half his life in this sport.
Yeah.
He's 36 now, Graham Rahal. He spent half his
2 months
life
younger than I am.
Yeah. This is just crazy to even consider we're talking about this with Graham Rahal. We know he's quality. His team has been cheeks for some time now, and that is a problem, especially on ovals. I mean, look at the rest of the team. Look, personally, I hope. I mean, I've actually kind of softened on Graham Rahal a little bit in more recent years. He's been very open and very honest about his struggles, and he's laid a lot of it out to bear. The mental and the physical side of being an IndyCar driver that's on a team that he can't really walk away from. It's his dad's name, but has also struggled immensely in the last few years, and they need a break. They need something to fall their way, but it just hasn't happened yet. Maybe fresh money and from fresh eyes on the team will help. Devlin is Devlin. I'm not going to get too excited about Devlin because he just wasn't great when he was there with Andretti in years past.
You hope that maybe he learned something in his excursion tour, but I mean, he didn't come into IndyCar last time with high hopes, and that's crazy for a guy who was driving in the top class of the Rolex 24 as a 17-year-old.
From what I
didn't really light the world on fire in sports cars either.
Yeah,
we'll always have turn one at Indianapolis, as Edmund put in our chat.
From what I heard, and I wasn't at IndyCar Media Day, preseason Media Day, because I was actually at the Chili Bowl out in Tulsa. From what I heard, Graham actually gave a pretty passionate defense of Devlin at Media Day and said, "Look, when Devlin was announced, the first call he made was to Graham and said, 'Hey, this is what I need to improve on,' and he listed out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different things, and they talked for quite a while about what to do about it. Do I think it's going to amount to top 10s, top 5s? Probably not, because you got to be Penske, McLaren, and Ganassi to do that. But could we see something better? Absolutely. If Devlin's able to follow through on the things that Graham told him to work on, then again,
if nothing else, Rahal will always vouch for his guys.
100%.
Yeah, the thing is with that is we can say much the same about RLL as a team, where it's not been a lack of trying. They have thrown every imaginable resource, every imaginable technical resource at this problem that they've had for the last couple of years, to the point of going back to old IRO 5 parts in the suspension, just trying to figure something out to get a baseline, and they can't find it.
Well, that year when that actually happened, what Cam was referring to was at a Sebring test that they did back in 2022. The last half of that year was actually good. Yeah. It was good. They got several top 10s, a couple of top 5s. It was great. But the next year, the wheels metaphorically fell off.
Yeah, and it's just been treading water ever since. I mean, we are so far removed from the team through Takuma Sato went and took the Indy 500 from a dominant Scott Dixon. And
that wasn't that long ago.
Rip it out of his hands. And it feels like that's decades ago. It doesn't feel like that's 5 years ago.
Yeah, and you've got Louis Foster there as well. He's on a multi-year contract with them. I'm glad that RNL just decided, sod it, just give the talented rookie a multi-year contract, full-time, no questions asked. They tied him down. He was exceptional in Indy Next last year. I warned people the year earlier that I thought Foster was already good enough to be an IndyCar full-time at the end of 2023. I was proven right in 24 because he ran the damn field over. He did not finish out of the top two after the month of May and won 9 races in the process. He was dominant.
Hard to win a title against that.
Yeah. Your prize going to RLL. Oh, well.
I think you put it well.
It's got the multi-year assurance, though. Like, Linus Lundqvist is now on team. I'm handing out my business cards and carrying a helmet in case somebody goes away in an ambulance.
Which is a goddamn crime, by the way. That we have to talk about Linus Lundqvist like that, but here we are. Thanks, Chip. Look,
yeah, I think Chris put that in put it a great way in his IndyCar proper season review last year. How do you win a title against that? You don't.
Exactly. Just sheer outright dominance. I hope just RNL just give me something this year.
You had a car slower than an Indy Next car around an oval.
But they bounced back from that raid to finish 1-2 at the IMSA round in Indianapolis.
Indeed.
Sure. How did Daytona go for them in the final hour?
None of your business. Just like
directly. It is explicitly my business.
Directly into your business.
Yes.
Now we've cracked the big four. It's time to talk about a team that has Colton Herta in the number 26, Kyle Kirkwood in the number 27, and Marcus Ericsson in the number 28. And the team name does say Mike Andretti Global. Michael's not here anymore.
He gone. He's been bought out. I mean, we talked about it a lot when it was confirmed that Cadillac would be on the F1 grid in 2026, but Michael Andretti is not here anymore. He's only here as essentially a non-executive chairman and ambassador to the team.
He doesn't even have an office in the team anymore, which is crazy.
That is crazy. If he does still own a part of this team, it's likely less than 10% because of the way the charter system works. Anyone that owns more than 10% of the team has to be listed on the charter, and Michael is not on that list anymore. So yeah, that's a thing. It's a new era at Andretti, a new team with global and whatnot. We'll have to wait and see how this plays out, but it's a retained lineup from last year, and yeah. Where do we start on this one? For me personally, all the drivers are contracted till the end of next year. So they've got stability. This is going to be done up for the next 2 seasons. Colton Herta was championship runner-up last year. For me, he finally turned the corner at the end of last season and brought back the teenage phenom Colton Herta that had been waiting to see develop for some time. Snapped a 40-plus race dry spell to finally get back in the winner's circle. I do have a niggling fear that this may be his last full-time IndyCar season for a while. This feels like a job interview for Cadillac's F1 team.
Regardless of whether it is, he cannot let that get into his head, because the last time it did was the start of his 40-race winless drought.
Well, if the first question in the interview was his LMP2 appearance at the Rolex 24 at Daytona, then get out of here. My pick!
Can't win them all. Get it out of your system before the big season starts, I'd say.
I'll say this openly. There's no reason why Colton Herta can't win the title this year. He's more than good enough. And for me, the only question mark is, has he settled his oval demons? Because he did win the final round of last season in Nashville. It was a breakthrough race where it was his first oval victory. He pulled off that stunning Ricardo Zonta-esque pass on Panama Award to win said race. I was like, has Colton finally cracked ovals? Because if he does, everybody needs to look out.
Well, he needs to crack the big one, because he was damn fast at the Indy 500 right up until the point where he sent that car into the junkyard.
Yeah.
And you could say it's the Indy 500, but it's a 500-mile race. He had a couple hundred left to go when he crashed that car.
I'll go ahead and just say my piece right now. I'll go ahead and knock out another prediction right now.
Oh, boy.
Colton Herta is my title pick this year. And I'll say this. I think when we do our title picks later, we can't pick Alex Palou because that's way too easy. Here's why I say. Here's why I say.
Just
Colton
try and fucking stop me.
Here's why I say Colton is my title pick. In the last 10 races last year, he finished in the top 5 8 times. In the last 11 races last year, he finished in the top 10 9 times. Like maybe after everything that happened last June, which we don't need to get into, maybe something like clicked with them because like he had like 2 races where he had the race at Iowa where I think it was on the wrong strategy. And I forget what happened in the other race, but like he was on it in the last half of last year. If he has an entire season like that, he's either winning the title or finishing second.
So are you saying, Krista Hardy, on the record, that your interview with Colton Herta that either was or wasn't supposed to be on the record is what has sparked Colton Herta's turnaround through the last half of 2024 and into 2025? Answer me. Is that a yes or no?
I'll just say this. Something at Road America, when he got turned by Linus Lundqvist at turn 3. First of all, Road America names their turns like really weird. I don't know why it's not turn 2, but like when he got turned there, he went from last in the field to 6th. All right, and then like the rest of the year, like I said, 8 top 10s and 8 top 5s in the last 10 races. Like he was just on it the rest of the year. So
talent's never been the issue. The issue has been the consistency.
And he was consistent throughout the entire last half of last year.
Well, that's the first time we've seen that in 4 years.
Exactly.
I need to see more.
If you can start the year off in a similar way and maintain that, who knows?
If you want my slightly colder version of a hot take, I think this is the year Carl Kirkwood cracks the top 5.
Oh,
yeah. Because we know the talent has been there. And last year, it was the peaks certainly were not as high, but he brought the floor up. We know the pedigree that Kyle Kirkwood has.
Had one of the highest floors in all of IndyCar last year. And
13 top 10s, the most of anybody in the league not named Alex Palou.
He's got to get back on the top step of the podium, though.
I think a huge element of it with these two is they will go as Andretti goes. If Andretti can maintain their strong streak from last year, and they're now kind of flying solo, technically, without that partnership with MSR again, I think that could be a little bit of addition by subtraction by getting to focus on their own cars.
Yeah. Like none of the key people in the pit wall have changed across either of the three cars. And plus, Craig Hampson, the guy who engineered Sebastian Bourdais to not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 straight Champ Car titles, is the overarching technical director for the full season, and we'll see all of his input throughout the year. That's going to be huge.
They have a lot of quality in that team. But that's always been the case with Andretti. And only in the second half of last year did they actually start to get to the road and get some results out of it. They got to keep that going. If they can keep that going, without things like wheels falling off the cars, random, insane Andretti bullshit, what terrible thing will happen to their car coming out of a pit stop?
What I will say as well.
There's no reason why those two can't. I also have a little bit of maybe a hot take.
Go on.
I actually think Kirkwood might beat Herta in the title standings this year.
Ooh.
Wouldn't surprise me. The Kirkwood is he's got the right foundation for a title campaign. Needs to show a bit more upside. What I will say is before we move on real quick, Andretti might be the only team other than Penske with 3 genuine bullets in the chamber for the 500.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Former winner Marcus Ericsson, Kirkwood has been top 5 in the past. That one, that main run was not his fault as to why all of a sudden we're going snowball, no ball. And Colton Herta is more than good enough to win on ovals and was running second at last year's race. Andretti's got 3 bullets in the gun. Nobody else has got that except maybe Team Penske.
I'm glad that you're singing the praises of Marcus Ericsson because look. Last year was not
that man last year.
It was not good. It is time to start on a clean freaking slate.
He needs one. His 500 was horrendous last year. Not entirely of his own making, but certainly that practice crash was a debilitating part of his 500 month.
That's another thing as well that I think we probably need to re-expand upon with 35 cars trying to fit into a 33 grid space. You really need to get your main car right this year And you really, really need to not crash it, because if you end up in a backup car, it almost doesn't matter what team you are. You're probably going to be under the gun for bump day this year.
And then, and just remember, if you're on qualifying on the last row shootout, 1, 2, 3, 4 laps.
Yep.
All 4 laps
matter.
Marcus.
Indeed. Next up on our list, McLaren.
You're
fully arrow McLaren.
You're so happy to talk about this team. Yeah, because
No more spam.
there's no more Sam Schmidt and Rick Peterson. The original founders of this team have been bought out. There's also no more Gavin Ward as team principal. He's been replaced by 2013 Indy 500 winner Tony Kanaan. As part of a lot of changes, only one on the driver's side, Christian Lundgaard is the new face of number 7 car, coming over from RLL to join Pato Ward and Nolan Siegel, who did 12 starts last year for a variety of teams, but mostly with McLaren.
Free my brother Lundgaard.
We've changed out the bars. They're now papaya orange.
Yeah, it's something. Look, I'm not the biggest fan of McLaren here, but I will take one for the team if Christian Lundgaard has better machinery. We'll talk about him in a little bit. It's Arrow McLaren.
Where's the fucking bar, Harrison?
Subterranean. Anyway, the point I'm getting at here is that it's Arrow McLaren, and we all know who this team is built around. It's the Pato Award show. It has been for half a decade now, and it continues to be the Pato Award show. He was 5th in the standings last year. Look, I've said this for the last 3 years. Pato Award is dynamite. He is one of the very few, in my opinion, three-pronged. I like to call these guys free tool drivers, guys that go in on road, street, or oval courses. Pato Award is good enough. Last year, that win at Mid-Ohio where he beat Alex Palou in a tire-saving match straight up. It was the nearest thing you'll get in IndyCar to a one-on-one shootout, and he beat Alex Palou straight up to do it. And everybody was going into that race saying Pato Award wasn't a tire saver, and he beat the best driver in the series heads up. Incredible.
He did have a little help. He did have a little help that Palou struggled to get out the pits, but still, he kept ahead of Alex Palou. You know how hard that is to do?
Yeah, virtually impossible.
No one does it in the point standings these days.
Yeah, virtually impossible. Pato Award has got more upside than just about anybody in this series. We know how good he can be. The IndyCar advert joked about it. He's won multiple races, but not the big one. 3 runner-up finishes at the Indy 500 now, all in the last 4 years. This has to be the year, Pato. Like, I'm fed up of talking about McLaren writing checks their arse can't cash. They have all the tools, all the money, all the weaponry, and all the talent. This has to be the year.
Yeah.
It has to be.
Your guy, Christian Lundgaard, just walked into, in my opinion, the best all-around team when it comes to preparing cards for the Indianapolis 500. Not necessarily 500 results, but for preparing cards for the 500, that is the best antidote he can get for struggling on opens.
They have been the most consistent team at the Indy 500 for the last 5 years.
Yeah.
In my opinion. They've always had at least one contender. Mostly Pato, sometimes even more than that. We've had Alex Rossi and Felix Rosenqvist
last year.
Up the field as well. They've had multiple cars contend for the 500 in recent years. This is the best home for it. Pato's been agonizingly close for the last 3 years. This has to be the year. I'm fed up of defending McLaren from underperforming. They want to be the global players in motorsport in multiple series the world over. So far, their time in IndyCar, in my opinion, has been a disappointment.
It's been a lot of, we're trying to make it a big 3, but Chip Ganassi and Roger Penske is all like, it's all big me.
Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah, because it's got to be a 500 or a title this year.
Yeah.
And the 500, they've been real close pretty much every year since they took full control of the team. The titles,
Pato got
less
a race away in 2021, lest we forget.
That's still the closest he's ever gotten, thanks, Ed Jones. But that's the closest he's ever gotten. And that's what makes Pato frustrating, because he's had closer runs than the one he had last year. Last year, yes, mechanical reliability did derail his campaign down the stretch, which did not help him at all. But He was third in 2021, and he was the outside contender in a three-pronged title fight in 2021 alongside Alex Palou and Josef Newgarden, the two best drivers in this series over the last 5 years. Like, he's good enough to be on that level. The team needs to rally around him. And look, Gavin Ward was a solid team principal. I'm not sure what you're getting with Tony Kanaan in charge. And this as an overarching point, it was Kanaan's call to give Nolan Siegel this full-time seat. I need to see more from Nolan Siegel this year.
I think he will.
I hope so.
I hope so, because
the talent that he showed in Indy Nets, look.
It was high, very high.
Absolutely high. Louis Foster does not win 9 races in Indy Nets last year if Nolan Siegel finishes out that campaign. And it would have been better for him if he had stuck out and finished that Indy Nets campaign. But when an opportunity calls at an IndyCar team, of course he's going to take it.
Tweeted what?
Now with a full off season to prepare for this, and stability that you hope Aaron McLaren is not going to get whatever it was that happened last year. I'd like to think they're done with that, and I'd like to think you will see a much more representative product of somebody that I think is one of the most exciting IndyCar prospects I've seen in a long time.
I hope it works out. I'm very excited for Lundgaard in the number 7 car. I think that is a drive with an extremely high ceiling in IndyCar. He did miracles with RLL in the 2 years he was there. He was a road and street course demon. Average finish, I think, was 7 a couple of years ago on road and street courses in an RLL car, including that 2023 win in Toronto where he had to shave off that god-awful moustache. But I've gassed up Lundgaard for a while because I thought he was F1 quality from his time in F2 with ART. I've always said that Lundgaard is a quality driver. He walked into this series and was immediately quick at Indianapolis. That road course at Indianapolis, he is always a contender for the win. He has been 4 or 5 times now. I want to see what he can do in a proper machine over a full season because, in my opinion, if he nails it with McLaren, he could be a top 8 guy. I think he's that quick where I think he could do it. He's an exceptional road and street course guy, and now he's with in my opinion, the best oval team not named Penske. He's got all the tools to put together a really, really good campaign. I just hope it can come through. I really do think Lundgaard is a supreme talent.
I like all 3 of these guys in McLaren hire. It's just about putting it all together. Why don't we jump in at Team Penske? Because they are the standard. Josef Newgarden, last year 8th in the standings. Scott McLaughlin, last year 3rd in the standings. Will Power, last year 4th in the standings. A combined 4 championships between them. A combined 3 Indy 500 wins between them. They really should be the favorites going into 2025. They typically always are. There's rarely a time, maybe in the late 90s, where you'd say Penske's not the favorite.
It's classic Penske. Don't let the Alex Palou championship fool you. Sorry, Cam, but Penske did win nearly half the races last year. There's no getting around that. They are the best all-round team in IndyCar again, and their complete and utter dominance of the Indy 500 was the exclamation point on that. Yes,
whose team is this anyway?
That might be the issue.
Because what was happening when they weren't winning those races? They were beating each other. They were quite literally crashing each other out of the races. And when it's always a different guy beating you, and the same guy keeps finishing 2nd and 3rd behind you, that guy's just going to point you to death. Now, the name of the game is the 500. And unlike the Daytona 500, where it seems that Roger Penske is going to continue to be the 2016 Golden State Warriors forever. This is a 500 where they just blew the field away and never, perhaps maybe for one short shoot at the end of the race, did they look like they weren't going to win that race. Well, Josef Newgarden drag raced Pato O'Ward and never looked back.
Let's not forget as well, the all-time pole record fell last year as well, 234.2 miles an hour. Scott McLaughlin running essentially no wing whatsoever, completely, and that was a front row lockout from Penske on the day as well. They front row locked out practice.
They locked out carb day. They locked out qualifying, and they dominated the race.
And won the big one in the end. Newgarden becoming the first back-to-back 500 winner in 22 years.
And the entire nice bonus from Borg Warner in the process.
Yeah, $440,000 in bonus money, making his total prize fund over $4 million for that win. With the rate of inflation, I mean, it's only going to be like 6 McChickens by next year. Exactly. But look, for me, there is no reason why Penske can't take everything on the table this year. They have all the tools to do it. We know it's Team Penske. We're not questioning their driver talent-ish. What I will say is that Penske have the best all-round package in IndyCar right now. Again, I have concerns about Josef Newgarden. I've made it clear in my season preview. Cover your ears, RJ O'Connell, but we are now getting close to 3 years since his last road and street course win. That for a driver... He did win last year.
And he didn't.
He didn't. Because what we didn't also mention is they had a full-blown, good old-fashioned cheating scandal to kick off the year.
Jonathan Duguid was Josef Newgarden's strategist for that 500. Jonathan Duguid is the head of Porsche Penske Motorsport. That is his side gig that he had to get called into.
I appreciate his services. Other than Lamar. Yeah, we'll talk about that. All that. But look, as I said, if Newgarden is going to be the favorite for the 500. He's won the last two. Nobody's ever won. He's got every chance of a three-peat because he's been phenomenal the last 2 years at the 500. I'm concerned about everything else with Newgarden. Yeah, because there's no getting around it. Because it has been a long time since he last won his last road and street course race. Remember, Josef Newgarden was the first guy to pick up a $1 million bonus split between team and himself for winning on all three disciplines of track. Yeah, he was at one point the ultimate three-tool driver in the series, and now he has kind of been relegated to being, one tool in terms of the 500. He was quick at short ovals last year, but came down with a bad case of stepping on cracks, walking under ladders, etc. at Milwaukee. And now the three-tool driver within Penske, in my view, is the guy who, when he was in his first season in IndyCar, could only do ovals right, which is ironic because all he grew up on was road and straight courses. That's Scott McLaughlin. That's the guy who, at the recent IMSA Sebring test, with Joseph and Scott testing the 963, Scott was a second clear of him. That's he actually, unironically, had a really good test in the 963. Scott McLaughlin really should be a title favorite in 2025. Not bad for a project driver. I'll go one further. He is my pick for the championship this year. Oh, Lordy. I think Scott McLaughlin is becoming an all-rounder that could be on Alex Palou's level. He had 5 pole positions last year, so the outright speed was there. 3 wins, could have had more. Temperament came into question a couple of times when racing his teammates. I still have question marks about his relationship with Josef Newgarden and how the bus bros fell apart at the start of last year. There's been a lot that's been kept quiet about that we don't know about. I don't know how that relationship is going into this year. It's a bit weird, but McLaughlin wins the championship last year. If it wasn't for the Penske cheating scandal, he wins it on count back over Palou. McLaughlin is good enough to win this title now. And I think on paper, I think he's Penske's best driver at the moment. If he can just find a little bit more, he's going to give Alex Palou a headache. Yeah. He almost did last year over Blowfish. And Will Power, we talked about him he's still going to be fired up. Do you think he wants to, if this is his last year, do you think he wants to go out sad? Fuck no. And let's put it to you this way. I don't think he joins Fernando Alonso's management group if he's retiring at the end of the season. Because we all know that man will never log off. Please log off. That doesn't sound like the act of a retiring driver to me. That's just the impression that I get. Will Power is still damn good. He could still win anywhere. He is still a more than viable title threat. I'd argue no driver in IndyCar gave Palou more of a hard time over this title fight last year than William Stephen Power. The question I have is, it's his age 45 season this year, and
Well, he's in a contract year, and Roger Penske, as I mentioned earlier, was already making moves to kind of set David Malukas up potentially for that drive in the future. He's paying for the Foyt rider he's got right now. It sounds like future-proofing to me. I don't think Will Power is bad enough to be cut for performance reasons right now. He was arguably Penske's biggest threat in 2024 across the board. We'll have to wait and see, but it sounds like it could be his last year.
He also wouldn't have said that about Helio Castroneves, and Penske pushed him out into sports cars.
Yeah, you don't know for sure. I mean, Chris, what do you make of it all at Penske?
Well, to put it bluntly, I mentioned it earlier with Connor Daly and Ricardo and Ed Carbon Racing. If everyone's pulling in the same direction, the team moves a lot better. At Team Penske, you have 3 superstar drivers, but if they're not all pulling in the same direction, then there's going to be a lot of tension there. And yeah, we said when Newgarden is 100% spot on, like he is the 500 trick pony, but as long as he keeps winning the Indy 500, he's got nothing to worry about for his future. Yep. There is a worry there with Will Power. You mentioned, Father Time is undefeated. He is still capable of delivering week in, week out top results and capable of winning a championship. If Will Power wins the title this year somehow against all odds, if I'm Roger Penske, I still am finding it very difficult to take him out of the seat full time. Then again, just because you win a championship for Roger Penske, that does not mean your ride is safe. Al Unser Sr. won the title for Roger Penske in 1985. At that time, he was 46 years old. He was part-time in 86. In 87, he was doing the 500-mile races only. In 1978, Tom Sneevil won the IndyCar title in USAC racing for Roger Penske's team, but he was fired because he didn't win a single race all year long.
We'll have to wait and see. But Penske are the only team for me that have got other team that's got 3 bullets for the 500 and for the championship. Any one of these dudes can win it. We've seen 2 of them do it already, and McLaughlin has got more than enough upside to make it 3. They are the best team in IndyCar right now, and they're going to take some beating. There's no getting around that. Last team on the list, Chip Ganassi Racing. They've downsized. They had 5 cars. They've only got 3 this year. In controversial news, the number 8 car has gone to Kiffin Simpson, who was 21st in the standings last year, over Linus Lundqvist and Marcus Armstrong. But we all know why you're here. Number 9, 6-time IndyCar season champion and former Indy 500 winner Scott Dixon is back for his 25th year in top-flight American single-seater racing. The silver anniversary, which is just making me feel incredibly old right now. And Alex Palou in the number 10 car, the reigning 3-time IndyCar season champion and a grown man haunted by milk. Yeah, we've come a long way with these 2.
Frosted Tips. That was a 1, but man, dude, can I lead off with Kiffin Simpson? Because I feel he is clearly the other guy in the team, and it seems like he is working to get himself over by challenging David Malukas as a clubhouse leader in ship posting, which I gotta say is really endearing. I have seen much better of him outside the confines of Indy Next and IndyCar. One thing that he really has to work on is qualifying, because it doesn't matter how quickly he drives in the race if he is still qualifying down in the 20s.
100%. I mean, having observed him in person, like, the man has good laps and he has bad laps, and he needs to have a whole lot more good laps in qualifying and in race trim. I think there is promise there, but he needs some work in order to actually bring it out.
I'll summarize it by saying this. On another podcast, Chris Wheeler, his race strategist, said, Kiffin's one of the hardest working drivers he's ever been with. Like, he's at the shop constantly, working on this, working on that. 2025 is when you got to show the results, and you have to prove that you're not just the third guy at Chip Ganassi Racing. You have to perform. I thought he should have been in Indy Next last year. I mean, then again, I'm not the one writing the checks and all that kind of good stuff. But if he can show a massive improvement this year, more power to him. I hope he does it. to just shut everybody else up.
Yeah. Charlie Kimball and Marcus Ericsson should serve as models in that regard, because Charlie Kimball and Marcus Ericsson came in more for their financial considerations and their talent, and they were eventually able to find success. So hopefully Clifton Simpson can find some of that. But of course, this is Scott Dixon's team and Alex Palou's team in equal measure. And boy, it's fun watching Alex Palou drive.
He's a phenom. What more needs to be said? We've gassed him up for the last 2 years on this show. He's won 3 IndyCar titles in the last 4 years. He's won 10 races in that time. He is as good a race car driver as anyone in the world today. There is no doubt about it in my mind.
I'll counter everything Dre said earlier on. Is this article on Christopher D. Hardy?
Mm-hmm. Something like that.
Well, whoever that guy is. In the 50 contested races during his 3 championship winning seasons, Palou has 10 wins, 36 top 5s, and 42 top 10s.
36 top 5s.
How do you win championships against that kind of consistency? You don't. It's as simple as that. Sounds like it could be a really high quality IndyCar writer someday.
I literally have that tab open 2 tabs over from this on my web browser.
I opened that just so I could bring that in. The problem for everyone is that Alex Palou just never ever logs off. No matter how bad the day is, no matter if his battery is flat and I'm in the stands, speed running all 5 stages of grief while wearing an Alex Palou shirt and hat. Whether he crashes and then gets... fuck you for jinxing that, by the way, Ducati. You motherfucker. On the way to the track, you motherfucker. But whether he crashes on an oval and then gets second the next day in the doubleheader, the floor is just too damn high. And the ceiling is beating everybody. The ceiling is only losing the Indy 500.
No ceiling.
The ceiling is losing the Indy 500 by less than a second to debatably the greatest Indianapolis runner ever spawned in Helio Castroneves.
I wouldn't even say debatably at this stage. We know what Alex Palou is here for. He's here for a 4th championship in 5 years. And most importantly, he's here for that first 500 win. But does he want that first 500 win as badly as Scott Dixon wants that second?
I don't think there's a person alive who wants to win more than Scott Dixon wants his second Borg Warner.
I would argue Pato maybe, although if Palou wins, if that lawsuit goes to mediation, it doesn't go his way.
Could get expensive.
Yeah, exactly. You got to do something with that prize money.
But I still think they'll settle that out of court. But I think there is every possibility that it might get a bit janky for them coming up down the road. What I would say is there's every chance that Dixon can still take a second 500. He's just had the wires have been crossed for him the last couple of years when it comes to attempts at this race, from vibration to just not having a competitive enough car. But he's Scott Dixon. Rule him out at your peril, quite frankly. And
that perhaps is the one true rule of IndyCar. Yeah. I will also go back to the point I made earlier that this is a team that's downsized, and I think it's a leaner, more focused Chip Ganassi Racing as a result. I think they do need to rebound outside, because like the 500, you take what they got given the competitiveness of their cars.
It wasn't, well, the cars weren't there, and they still got a top 5 out of it.
Yeah, they still looked damn good, but they were just outgunned. But the results of that downsizing and being able to focus more on your 2 superstars and your young development driver, you have to get it onto the track. Because if they take a similar slide or just stay static from where they were last year, if Penske can just iron out some of the bullshit that they kept inflicting upon themselves, they then become much harder to beat. At the same time, Alex Palou only would have been beaten by McLaughlin on countback because the last race went so badly for Penske that Palou tried a Hail Mary strategy for the win.
Because fuck it, he knew you already had the championship won by that point, essentially.
It literally did not matter anymore.
So yeah, it's a bit of an if as to how that played out in the end. But yeah, that's Chip Ganassi Racing. Let's get into our final predictions before we wrap it up here, because we've gone a long-ass time here, nearly 2.5 hours. But
we had fun. I like to think we've had fun doing this.
And that's the most important thing. Right. First up on RJ's prediction list of fun. Rookie of the Year, obviously between Louis Foster, Jacob Abel, and Robert Schwartzman.
You could realistically say that somebody could jump in mid-season, but just about the three candidates we have, it's Louis Foster. Jacob Abel is walking into a team that just needs stability and to get back in the leader circle. And Robert Schwartzman is new to this whole thing. Give me Louis Foster.
Cam?
Foster. I watched that man just dismantle Indy last year. That said, RLL, for the love of God, please be better.
The Hardy? Whenever you unmute yourself.
He's forgotten how to unmute himself.
No, it wasn't that. I have the spreadsheet in a different window, and I had to switch back to this one. Foster. 100%.
Clean sleep. So put a pin in that, Jason, for whatever Robert Schwartzman wins Rookie of the Year in a landslide. Best Indy 500 wild card. That's someone not signed to a full-time deal. We mentioned them before we got into our full field. This is all the 500 only people. I'm going with Brian Hunter-Reay. DR prepares bang up good cars for the 500. I was flipping between him and Harvey. But I think Ryan Hunter-Reay has one of those Unk still got it kind of performances. Gets a top 10.
I can see it. I think his car's too good not to be a viable contender. The guy, we all look, say what you will about Kyle Larson. Again, the talent is off the charts. He drives dirt. He's the best driver in the world. Give me Kyle Larson.
Kyle Larson. I just think he needs to iron out the funny that he did last year. But in terms of speed and comfort, especially in his second year in the 500, in a McLaren, Lars is going to be good.
They better hope that weather's good for it too, because they said he's not staying at Indy if the Coke 600 goes on schedule, and that doesn't.
Frick the Hardy?
I was thinking about doing Larson, and then I just realized something else. I think I'm going to swerve on this. So I'm going to go off of everybody else. I'm going to say Jack Harvey.
So you're going with a pick that I was too scared to make.
You don't know Jack.
Here's the mind killer.
Okay, we now have the over-under race winners prediction. RJ O'Connell, the bookmaker that he is, not set the bar at 7.5 different winners. Do we go over or under? RJ is elected to go
over.
Cam, 7.5.
We had 7 last year, 7 the year before, 9 in 2022.
Let's take over. I'm going to say under.
Trey with a strategic fade.
I did this last year and it worked out for me. Give me the under.
I'm going to say over, because if you get all 3 Penske drivers and you get 2 Ganassi drivers to each get 1 race, you already got 5 right there.
That's literally my thinking behind it.
You get Pato to get 1 win. And a random wild card, you're already at 7. I think we're going to get over. I think we're going to get
Lingard in there. I think Lingard will take
8.
a win this year.
I think we're going to get 8.
I think we get 9. I think match 2022, 9 and 17 races.
I'm sitting at 8.
Does a 2025 charter change hands by next year?
I will say, yes, it does. I think Prema will get at least 1. I don't know where that's going to come from, whether that's Coin selling 1 or RLL selling 1, realizing that they're stretched too thin. But I do think 1 changes hands by the start of next season.
I'm going to say no. And the reason why I'm going to say no is that Splendid Addy has basically set the price of a charter at around the $40 million mark. That's a lot of cash, and I don't know who's got that kind of money that's going to come in and sweep up a charter to invest that kind of bread into IndyCar the way that it is right now in 2025. So I'm going to say no on this one.
I'll say no.
All right.
No.
Next up, do we have a new Indy 500 pole record again? Remember, it's 234.220 set by Scott McLaughlin last year. That's not the outright qualifying record that's Arie Luyendyk Jr.'s dad.
I think it's going to be condition dependent.
Of course.
I will say yes.
No. I think there's a much greater chance conditions are not optimal to the point where, I mean, how much more can they keep digging out of these cars? I mean, I don't know. I think I'm going to say no.
No, I think so as well, because we're hitting the point where we've just gotten as much out of these cars as we can. I'm sure like IndyCar will probably institute a rule change where it's just like, maybe these cars are a bit too fast. We need to make them more raceable or something.
I'm actually really curious about as well, because we saw so many engine issues as we're wringing all that is left out of this engine formula. I'm really curious to see if we have a repeat of that again.
I'm going to say no because the cars are heavier this year.
Good point. Hybrids. Well, how much would the extra power make the difference on that as well? We'll have to wait and see. Your 2025 Indy 500 winner will be...
I think this is the year Pato finally does it. I could have, if I wasn't a coward, said with my full chest, 3, implying a Josef Newgarden three-peat, but I don't. It has the feeling that it looks like it's going to happen for half the race, and then something goes catastrophically wrong, either a mechanical failure, a botched pit stop, or he gets pit maneuvered out of the race with hopefully no severe injuries. I think this is the year Pato Award does it, and it's about damn time McLaren showed up for the party.
I'm going to say, you know what? I'm going to go all in. Scott McLaughlin to double up. Gentlemen, let's gamble.
In the yellow submarine.
Let's go gambling.
Oh, dang it.
I've got
well,
McLaughlin.
I cannot gamble on IndyCar racing as a media member. I'm not allowed to.
I was going to say,
I want to.
I was going to say, just to quickly back myself up here, McLaughlin has taken to ovals extremely quickly. He's got better and better at the 500 at every attempt. He had a potentially winning car last year, ran out of steam a little bit in the race in the back end. I think he's good enough. I'm going all in on McLaughlin.
Addition by subtraction. Get that monkey off his back. Please, God, Alex Palou win the fucking Borg Warner.
How many times has he burned your fingers on this, Buckley?
Well, Renus VK is responsible for one of those, and I will not rest until the suffering is complete.
So, for IndyCar season champion, I've already said McLaughlin. RJ's also said Scott McLaughlin.
I am saying Scott McLaughlin. Chris said Colton Herta. I flip between McLaughlin and Herta, but I like McLaughlin's chances this year.
Oh, I said pot up for the 500, by the way. So
I was going to say, but Cameron, go all in on Palou. I dare you.
Oh, for the championship?
Go on.
That's not the risky one. I was picking Palou regardless. I was picking Palou if I found out that he got a terminal case of ligma the day before the season started.
Does Candace know about that?
Yeah.
Chris' 500 pick is Pato, by the way.
Yeah, you mentioned it earlier.
And finally, three-peat. Palou Championship or Newgarden 500.
Either way, I win.
You're a selfish lover, O'Connell. You know that, right?
I will say...
You greedy bastard.
I will say Palou Championship, definitely. Three.
But for who, Chris Kamara?
I'm going to say that they are going to be blasting Kingdom by downstate as Josef Newgarden wins his third straight Indy 500, the first time in history, and he gets the shitty neck tattoo. Come on, just embrace the Homelander bit. Half this fan base hates you already. Just go ahead and embrace it. Go full Cody Rhodes on him.
I think personally, given the nature of the 500, I think Palou winning a third championship is more likely than Newgarden three-peating. So if I had to choose one or the other, I would say Alex Palou to three-peat.
I would say, based on the statistics that Cam read from my article earlier, I think Palou's going to have a better chance at winning the title than Newgarden will of winning his third Indy 500. Pato came close last year, he's been close last 3 years, which is why I picked Pato. But I think Palou will be closer to a three-peat than Newgarden will of winning his third Indy 500 in a row. Now, don't get me wrong. There's been 3 other back-to-back winners in Indy 500 history, 4 actually, that have come very close to having 3 500 wins in a row. Newgarden could easily join that crew and coming so close, but yet just coming up short and failing to win his third in a row.
Hope when he does, I hope he starts to look at that hole in the catch fence and he says, "Nah, screw you guys. I'm doing this for me."
Yeah, so that is it for our 2025 IndyCar Series predictions. It's been a long time, it's been a fun time, and that's a crash course in all you need to know heading into the 2025 season, which starts March 2nd on the street of St. Petersburg, live on Fox and on Sky Sports F1 in the UK. Don't worry, UK fans, IndyCar is going nowhere. It is still going to be on Sky Sports F1 and still narrated by your favorite cop, Tom Gaymore. I'm sure it'll go down well. Anyway, just so you know as well,
my favorite cop is Godzilla.
Fair enough.
That was Tully.
Also fair enough. Those thighs, good lord. Anyway, we'll be back next week for a second part of our preview season, and this time we shed 4 wheels for 2 as we preview the 2025 MotoGP season.
You're never going to guess what our predictions are for that one.
I don't know. Maybe a guy with the initials MM might come in a little bit here and there.
Bit of red.
Bit of red. I mean, it never hurt anybody, did it? Hey, Lewis. Anyway, yeah, that'll be next week, 2025 MotoGP season preview. Places you can find us, we're on youtube.com/motorsport101, facebook.com, /line, motorsport101. We are on bad Twitter at motorsport_101. We're on good Twitter, personally at Dre Harrison at BlueSky.social. RJ is there at RJ O'Connell. Krista Hardy, follow him at Cedar Hardy on Twitter and what have you. He's also on frontstretch.com. Check out his work over there. And Cameron Buckley is a degenerate. He's also at C Buckley. And he's also Cam Buckley on Blue Sky. Follow him for memes. And
C Buckley 917. There are no vowels, and yes, 917 like the Porsche.
Of course it is. Exactly. You can find all of those details and more on our website, Motorsport 101, including the Haters Guide to the 2025 IndyCar season, written by yours truly. It's over 5,000 words strong, breaking down everything you've heard in this podcast, if you prefer your podcasts in written form. There'll also be our MotoGP version, and that will be out this Saturday. So if you're a fan of the bikes, there's a full comprehensive season preview up on the Motorsport 101 website on this Saturday, the 22nd now. It's just got past midnight in the UK, so it's just confused me for a second there. And of course, if you really like us, you can back us financially on Patreon, patreon.com/motorsport101. $5 gets you early access to all of our content. $10 gets you in at the level where you can listen to the episodes live as they're being recorded, as Ed, Jace, and Kira all did. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Do check it out if you haven't already, as the Hardy shows off Legos, Porsches, and the infamous picture on the wall. We'll explain that next time he's on, because we have not got time. We've got nearly 2 hours 45 tonight, but it's been a fun time. thank you guys very much for listening. Hope you guys enjoyed us during the break, and we'll be back next week for our MotoGP season preview. Until then, I've been Dre Harrison. They've been RJ O'Connell, Cameron Buckley, and Christopher the Hardy. Thank you very much for listening. We'll catch you guys next time. Good night.
And as my father used to say, that's why they call it IndyCar.
Love you, Sarah.
Aw, he's being sweet. Kill him like the rest.
Save Braid Cell. Save Braid Cell.